Oh man, what's really good though, family tree? Let me know that you're actually up in the building with me. So yeah, buddy. Some of you guys may have caught the last show. I believe it's called Age of Aisha, Child Marriage, responding to Christian critiques. That was the name of the last show, and of course it lasted for literally an hour in terms of me presenting information, and then maybe about 20 minutes or so of people jumping in. Of course, we had the trolls jumping in and so forth. And I just want to say to you guys, if you guys want to come in and enjoy the show and jump on and challenge the stuff that I've actually presented in the last show, or we can discuss anything that you guys would like to discuss, we're here for it. The link. Oh, did I send out the link? Yeah, I did send out the link to the other group, but let me send it out to you guys over here. So yeah, come in. Like, we can do a nice free for all where you lot can challenge each other. We was having the nice little challenges earlier on. We had the Christians. Mo Abbey was challenging the Muslims on the last panel. So that was pretty awesome. So if you guys would like to come in, if you're Christian, Muslim, whatever the case is, atheist, anything, like want to talk about social issues, political issues, or relationship issues, whatever the case is, right? You can jump onto this show and have a discussion. Yeah. So I see a lot of you guys are just messaging me right now for the link, like link. Like I should start doing this. I'm going to start charging you guys, right? I'm going to start charging you guys. So anytime you message me with a link, make sure you hit us up with a super chat. Okay, make sure you hit us up with a super chat, and then you'll be the first ones with the link. All right, family. So, who would like to open up their mics first and speak? Let me know. But before you do that, actually, because I need to set some ground rules. On Titans TV, we have 3 rules. First rule is to keep your mics muted at all times. Second rule is to respect our panel members or Titan Cypher. So when they're speaking, show them that courtesy of respect and keep your mics muted. Third rule is please no swearing or no profanity, because we know by watching other shows, okay, what happens. Even this show, like as soon as somebody, launches an ad hominem attack, it starts to go downhill. People start swearing at each other, and it gets really, really unpleasant. Say the least. Really, now, unfortunately, I got a feeling we're gonna get loads of trolls. I've got a feeling we're gonna get loads of trolls popping in, and this is the problem of us actually sending out the links, right? But let's hope we can have this show without the influx of trolls jumping in. Buddha Bing, I see you, my brother. All right. So again, Buddha Bing, I see you, my brother. All right. So again, Buddha Bing, I see Harry. If I don't want to actually kick you out, but I suggest you sort out your mic or turn off your YouTube, because there's a lot of duplications. YouTube, there's a lot of duplications. So there's a lot of yeah. All right, cool. So somebody just asked the topic. The topic can simply be what we spoke on the last show. The last show that we did, I gave a presentation to do with the age of Aisha. Well, I had to mention the age of Aisha just to go through the tafsirs and the Quran and what it says, and what the schools of thoughts actually had to say on Surah Al-Talaq, the verse and 4, whether there's child marriages in the Quran. So if you guys want to speak on that topic, right, you feel free to jump on and speak on that topic. Otherwise, whatever topic that you guys want to talk about. We've got Ezra up in the building. We've got Plip 5. We've got Marshall Mathers. We had Harry Hill that was on here, The Only Way, as well as Go Live Media Speakers. Corner says, "What's good, Kaffers? What's good?" And the Kaffers will respond, "We right here. We're not going anywhere. What? We right here." All right. So feel free to mute your mic and unmute your mic a couple of times to gain my attention, to let me know who will be the next one up to speak. I guess it's Buddha Bing goes first. Who else? Anybody else would like to speak after Buddha Bing? We got Witness after Buddha Bing, and okay. All right, go ahead, Buddha Bing.
Yes, what's going on, Kalam? What's going on, gentlemen? For some reason, I can't join through the YouTube chat. I don't know what that's about, but I'm here anyway. What I'd like to say is this, Callum. Callum, once we've had this show and we've established whatever we find, can we not revisit this in the future?
You know,
I'm thinking this is like been done ad nauseum now. Surely to God.
it really has, right? It really has. Unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know. I think I've done it to ad what's the word? Ad audism, whatever the word is, right?
Ad nauseum, ad nauseum.
Yeah, ad nauseum. I think I have. But it seems that we have a lot of people that may have never got the message. So we have to start repeating it. And I really would like to just, condense it. And I wanted to condense it on the Dara response team on their YouTube and stuff. I want to put this type of information up there into short 5-minute videos, right? Short 5-minute videos that explains this to Muslims and non-Muslims alike. And then afterwards, if anybody would like to respond or to hold a debate with me, we could do that in person or whatever the case is. And move on from there. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm sorry for those of you guys who don't like this topic, but it's necessary to get this out there because, to be honest with you, there is a mad disease that's plaguing the Muslim world with this ideology. And more than non-Muslims or critiques of Islam, Muslims themselves need to get this information, because I can't stand the thought that Muslims themselves are actually enabling the act or the idea of pedophilia. So really and truly, if we want to cure that disease, we need to keep on inoculating people with it, unfortunately.
Kalam,
Yeah.
hope everyone is having a good day. I just want to talk about this topic, just kind of going over some people, because I've heard a few days ago, some people were saying, that there's a debate going on within the Muslim community saying that, well, she was actually 18 and blah, blah, blah. So I come from a Muslim background, and I guarantee you, plus 90% of the big ulama or the scholars, they say that she was, in fact, still, a kid. She was not 18. I do see that sometimes when Muslims are, and I'm saying that as a group because I'm a Muslim myself, but when we're outside, when we're out the world, we're, we're being selective with what we want to believe. But truly, when we have inside talks, it's a bit different compared to the outside talks. And we have to be able to be honest and say, this is what we believe, or the majority of the Muslims, scholars and people believe that she was a baby or, a kid, whatever. And I do want to say that obviously my personal views is different, but I'm talking more about the majority of the Muslims and the scholars included. They truly believe she was a kid. And to pretty much to cement that statement, there is a clear hadith stating that she was playing with dolls. So that kind of contradicts. If she was 18, 19, you really don't really, it's hard to believe that she's still playing with dolls. I truly believe the hadiths about her playing with the dolls and with little baby, with little baby toy stuff is put in there with purpose. It's to cement the idea, yes, she was a baby or a kid, not an adult, not an 18 or 16-year-old.
Agreed, 100%. I think I agree with you, man. It's shocking stuff that you can find in these hadiths, and it's shocking stuff that the major ulama, the major scholars, the people of influence, the leaders, they actually believe this stuff, right? 100% believe this stuff. So I hope the world is not thinking I'm trying to say that this is not Muslims. Muslims don't believe this. Yeah, Muslims actually believe this, and they're strong on this, right? But again, we're saying this is a disease that's crept in, and we need to dispense the medicine with, and the medicine is education, and educate these people to really read their scriptures and apply the science of hadith or whatever the case that's necessary to get them out of that mold. So yeah. Yeah, carry on. What's good?
Yeah, so I'm a layman in this perspective. I don't know much about Islam, but as if I heard the brother saying this, he said it's cemented in the Quran. Does that actually mean there has to been messed around with the Quran, or it's being corrupted by somebody in those several passages, or do I see it wrong here?
No, it's not. Let's say this. You'll find a lot of things inside of the translations of the Quran, the English translation of the Quran, and they would interpolate their own ideas into the translations. And somebody reading these translations may come to this idea, this sick idea, to be honest with you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Right? But if you read the Arabic, which I've shown, right, and I've shown you, thankfully we've got a Corpus Quran where it has the grammatical breakdown, and I've shown to you how it should be translated now. I'm even jumping into my linguistic hat, I haven't jumped into my linguistic, field for a long time. Like usually we do that with the Kemetic stuff and breaking down the hieroglyphs and trying to teach people what the hieroglyphs actually say. But we actually had to just jump into grammar today to do with the Quran, to let people understand the Quran is not talking about prepubescent girls. It's talking strictly about women who are not currently menstruating, who have mensed in the past, but are not currently menstruating. We proved it, not by what I'm saying or what a tafsir writer is saying. We proved it via what, the Prophet was saying. We proved it via what the Caliphs were saying. So we had Ali there, we had Uthman there, we had Umar there. We showed it via the Sahabas, what they were saying. We showed it via the major the major fiqh schools. We showed it through what's his name, Abu Hanifa. We showed it through Imam Malik. We showed it through Shafi'i. We showed it through Ahmed ibn Hanbal. We showed it through all of these individuals, right? But I guarantee you, somebody will come up and say, no, but the tafsir of Ibn Kathir says this, or no, the tafsir of Jalalain says this. Yeah, fine. I agree with you. They do say this, and these
Right.
are people, right?
Yeah.
Not representing.
Kalam.
Hold on, can I finish? Not representing the earlier, view on this verse was. They're coming 700 or 900 years later and giving their Wahhabi Salafi spin on these verses and interpret it in such a fashion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Usually, it's because like when we're having internal conversations, Muslims in general, they're very straightforward and very firm in what they believe. But it becomes when it's more of an open platform and you're talking on YouTube or you're talking where multiple people can see you, then Muslims become very selective in what they say, and they want to kind of focus on the things that's going to show the Muslim world in a more positive light. But now they're being dishonest at times. And again, I'm a Muslim myself, so I'm putting myself in that category. I think we as a group have to be more open, have to be scrutinize more, any religious texture that we believe in, because otherwise, as a people, we will not be able to move forward. We'll be stuck in our ways, and just pretty much be a little bit of a hypocrites, because we'll talk one way when we're talking to each other, and then we talk differently. Like same thing with pictures. Did you know maybe 20, 30 years from now, most of the hadiths about having pictures will tell you that it's haram. But now that the world has evolved so fast, now all of a sudden the interpretations start changing, and all of a sudden it's okay to have pictures. But like 30, 40 years from now, all of the scholars would tell you you cannot have a picture of an animal or a human being or whatever in your house or whatever. So I think we have to be more genuine. We have to be more open. We have to be more, be okay with being wrong. You don't always have to be right. And you could still be a Muslim and be wrong. And I think people don't see that. They always want to be right, and their religion is perfect, and it doesn't work that way.
Well said. Well said.
100%. Love that. All right. Anybody else would like to open up their mic and speak? Let me just quickly see who are we missing out on. So we've got Mo. Who else? We've got Jesna and Takia. Is your mic open?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to speak?
Sure. I actually like that you revisit this topic every now and then, because this is an educational platform. So some new people is coming in, and also old people that have been here for a while, needs to dissect and let it basically sink down, or sink in. So I really appreciate that. And I guess the thing that I would want to say here is, when it came to the tafsir, I haven't seen your previous video, by the way. I just came in the last 5 minutes. When it came to Ibn Kathir and Qurtubi, I guess the question that caught my and maybe others' attention was when I wanted you to clarify if it mentioned that they have not menstruated because of their young age, and you said no, that is the part. Have you addressed that?
Yep.
Does he mention at all?
I addressed it. So I would say,
okay, you have. Okay.
So if you're talking about Ibn Kathir's actual words, his words, rather than him quoting what the Sahabas were saying, okay?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, in his tafsir, yeah.
so his words, his tafsir, he does speak about young of age girls, or young of age. I can't remember the exact phrase. He does talk about young of age, but the context that I was speaking about, or when I read out and I showed you the Arabic,
Yeah.
you know, it was basically we were discussing two different.
When you went down, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we were
Okay,
basically
yeah.
discussing two different things, and that's why I said to you, you were right and I was right.
Yeah.
You know, we got our wires crossed. I'm talking about the hadith that was, how can I put it, analogous to the Ibn Abbas one, or very close to the Ibn Abbas one. It was talking about young women and so forth, right? And I showed you the two hadiths that's actually inside of Ibn Kathir, and I showed it to you in the Arabic, and I showed it to you in the English, I believe, as well. But then you was talking about the, you know, what Ibn Kathir
Katis,
himself
yeah,
said. I
exactly.
would agree with you. Yeah, Ibn Kathir 100% says
But
that.
isn't that how they understand it? I mean, Muslim, they take the tafsir writer's opinion as well.
So it depends on what Muslim you're talking about.
I guess. Yeah. Can you clarify?
But I thought you was a troll for a hot second. So yeah, it depends on what Muslim you're talking about and what do they accept. So I just, you know, earlier on in the show, I went through the 4 different madhabs with you, okay?
Okay.
And well, with everybody basically, and I showed everybody that basically, you know, the early madhabs, which is coming from the tabain, meaning the generation after the sahabas or after the prophet's companion, right? They all were, you know, unanimously agree that, like, you know, they've never heard of this hadith about Aisha being 9 years of age. They just, you know, it was for them the amal, the practice of the custom, okay, was just 18 years of age. That's when you're
interesting.
You know what I'm saying? And then the Maliki school as well. They said, you know that hadith coming from Hisham ibn Urwa, like his stuff, nah, we don't accept it, right? And that's why. And then Shafi, who was the student of Malik, yeah, like that's why he himself, you know, you can go into verse, you know, let me quickly do this real quickly to you, so you can.
I don't want to take too much of your time. If you already shown all the sources and so on. Okay.
If you go into like the tafsir, or I don't even know which one it is. There's, you know, it gives you the what's this called? Shafi, who is the teacher. Sorry, who's the student of Malik, right? Yeah, look, Shafi. He says like what? Shafi says here, well, the legal age, which according to Shafi is the completion of 15 years. For him, like it dropped 18 years because he used a hadith to Ibn Umar. So for him in his time, he was like 15 years of age is how old, you know, somebody is when they reach puberty. So of course, like, you know, the Prophet married a 9-year-old. They completely rejected that because she wouldn't have been of age. But then when it comes over to, you know, Ahmed ibn Hanbal and another person called Ishaq ibn Ibrahim, you know, they now argue the case. They were the first people in history to argue, you know, this hadith to do with from Hisham ibn Urwa, to talk about the Prophet marrying Aisha at 9 years of age. Everybody else rejected it. You know, all the 3 major schools of thought, they all rejected it outright, completely. They're like, what the hell are you talking about with that one, right? But these 2 people who consequently, Ahmed ibn Hanbal and Ishaq ibn Ibrahim, they were the ones responsible. Let me quickly do this. Let me share my screen.
Well, hold on. There's a follow-up question that's quite relevant. So fiqh, or the 4 schools, they're trying to systemize.
Yeah. Before you do that, though,
okay.
You know, let me just quickly do this, right? So then you have somebody called Ishaq ibn Ibrahim, yeah, and also Ahmed ibn Hanbal, yeah. They were the ones responsible now for educating or teaching. Who are they responsible for teaching? Bukhari, yeah, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, and Nasai, right? And then of course Ahmed ibn Hanbal also taught
Damn, Kalam is teaching today.
So, you know, like
you're taking the teacher's teacher, right? Bukhari is the layman.
Yeah, so they were the ones who was responsible for introducing right into, you know, the 6 hadith school hadith collection, this type of teaching of 9 years of age. The people of the past, okay, the fiqh school, the jurisprudence format, or the 3 madhabs, all rejected it outright. But this deviant, I'm going to call Ahmed ibn Hanbal for this one, right? A straight deviant for bringing this whole 9 years of. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes,
yeah.
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 Well, so let me get Tiki to finish, and I'll get you in, Dobby.
Okay, so a relevant follow-up question is, because these sources are in the Hadith, because fiqh is when you take all the sources from the Quran and the Hadith and systemizes and says, Muslim, this is how you should practice Islam. But that is different from revealing historical informations, because not everything the Prophet did is Muslims supposed to do. It's some things are like history, you know. So do they reject, or should the three sects or schools, 3 out of 4 schools of Islam or Sunni Islam, do they reject the Sahih Hadith? And if they do that, isn't that a problem itself? Let's say Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim.
Okay, so according to the methodology, which I should really bring up the methodology, right? Let me see if I can do something like that. So according to the methodology that they employ, which was laid out by their actual founders of the school, right? Their methodology should straight away, how can I put it? Deny it. Not deny is the right word. What's the word? Reject it.
Reject.
Yeah, they should reject it. So for example, you got, you know me, I always have some things laid out somewhere. So you got these, prominent ones. You got Hanafi, you got the years and so forth, where they were and so forth, right? So according to, let me quickly get it. All right, so okay. Okay, no, I passed it, haven't I? Okay, so for example,
well, you can just sum up the question.
Yeah.
The question.
Right, so
once you actually are willing to reject Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, isn't it a big problem? Comes with it.
So, for example, you got the Maliki school of thought, right? This is how they, their methodology or their minhaj for actually looking at things, right? They look at the Quran, for example. They go through the Sunnah. They go through the Amal, which is the practice of Medina. Then they go through the ijma of the consensus of the companions. Then they go through the individual opinions of the companions. Then they use qiyas, which is deductive reasoning or analogies. Then they utilize the customs of the Medinites, right? And then they utilize istisla, which is welfare, and they utilize urf, okay, to come to a decision. Now, with all of that, they realized that the custom at that time was 18 years of age when somebody is an adult, right? So anything that contradicts that, they would 100% reject it, right? Then you have people like, the Hanafi school of thought, right? Sorry, you got the Hanafi school of thought, okay? They do the same thing. They utilize the Quran, they utilize the Sunnah, they utilize the Ijma, they utilize the different opinions of the Sahaba, they utilize Qiyas, they utilize preference, and they utilize Earth. All right, let me just quickly show you again for the last couple two now. But now, when we get into somebody like the Hanbali school of thought, now they use the Quran, they use the Sunnah, they use Ijma, they use individual opinions of the Sahaba. But this is it right here. This is the problem now. They utilize weak hadith to come to a ruling. Okay, let's quickly see it. For a ruling on a case where none of these previous 4 principles are offered a ready solution, the Imam used to prefer to use a weak hadith rather than applying his own deductive reasoning. However, this was on a condition that the weakness of the hadith was not due to the fact that one of its narrators was classified as fasik, i.e. degenerate, or as a kadhab, which is a liar. And they also utilize qiyas. So now Ahmed ibn Hanbal finds this hadith from Hisham ibn Urwa that talks about Aisha being 9 years of age and says, hold on. I don't care that it's mursal, okay? I don't care it's mursal because I accept weak hadiths, remember? I accept weak hadiths as long as it's not a liar or a degenerate. I accept that. So therefore, if the Prophet married Aisha at 9 years of age, that means a woman now becomes a girl now becomes a woman at 9 years of age. And this is how this gets passed on inside of his school of thought. Now that's passed on through his school of thought, he passes on to his to his students. And now his students now operate based upon this and now accepts that hadith, right? And now somebody like Bukhari, who's one of his students, now collects hadiths and now entitles it Sahih. He now says, Sahih. And then people say, whatever is entitled Sahih must be Sahih, not knowing that the scholars don't actually believe that everything inside of Bukhari is Sahih, okay? And that's how it now creeps inside of Islam, and they now have this erroneous belief just creeping around, all right? Let me just quickly show you guys something real quickly, because most people don't even know this. Speed up, speed up, speed up, speed up. Bear with me. Okay, so look at this right here. All right, so this is the textbook of Hadith studies. I could bring it out. This is on page 38 for any of you guys who actually does have the book. It says here, Al-Bukhari, sorry, no, let me go up here. Now Muslims, and there are consequently fewer transmitters in Al-Bukhari than a week than in Muslim. Okay, thus, it is noted that of the 430 or so Al-Bukhari's transmitters, only about 80 have been questioned or labeled as weak, whereas of the total of 620 narrators of Muslim, the critiques have raised questions over 160, double that which is in Bukhari. About 89 of al-Bukhari's hadith have been identified to have some defects, whereas in Muslim's collection, such hadiths have been numbered at 100. So the scholars themselves, yeah, even though the title may be called Sahih, right? And the layman just thinks everything in Bukhari I accept because it's Sahih. The scholars themselves understand that at least minimum 89 of those hadiths are actually weak hadiths. In Sahih Muslim, even though it says Sahih on the title, right?
This is a disaster for Sunni Islam.
Yeah, Kalam.
At least 100 of them are weak. Okay.
Let me just interrupt, Kalam, because I don't want to take too much. It's a lot of people in the panel that want to speak. I have a question for you. If I could arrange for you to have this discussion with Christian Prince on a neutral platform, I can moderate if you want. I can contact him. Would you be interested?
I don't mind. I won't.
Okay. You open for that?
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind.
Okay. Do you want me or someone else to moderate? I'll just, because I'm the middleman. You guys are speaking on the field of Arabic and stuff like that.
You know,
I'm just a middleman then.
We could do it on your channel, because the way I really love the work that you do, and I really want to support you, and I really want your channel to grow. Okay,
Sure.
I wouldn't mind doing it on your channel, right? I don't mind if Christian Prince, records it on his channel as well. I personally won't do it because I want to make sure that your channel gets a lot of views and a lot of attention, because I love the work you're doing. Because for me, you perfectly represent what I envisioned of Titans TV subscribers. I want people to be critical, to actually go ahead and research and do their own work. And I see that inside of you. I've seen the amount of extent of research that you go through to present some information. So I don't mind doing it on your channel, and make sure you get all of the views and all the subscribers.
Yeah, and also Christian Prince, he's very dominant. So, I mean, to be fair, you need a moderator. So that's what we're rolling with. All right, Kalam, I'll give the mic to someone else. You guys can follow me. I'll post my name in the chat, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.
Cool. Peace.
Yo, Takia, where you going, bro?
I have to study tonight, so
Oh, you have to
I gotta
study.
go.
Take care.
But save it for next time. All right, you can always challenge. I'm always open for that.
Okay.
Okay.
But, so yeah, who was next? Sorry, whoever's next, open your mic and speak.
Scattered minds,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Definitely,
over
bro.
the social issues. I mean, I'm gonna let you guys do this until you guys are ready. But when you want to talk about more, I don't know, more wider topics and stuff, I'll jump in. But on this, like I say, I think
Before I leave,
one second, bro.
Before I leave, Titans TV, you better check your moderator. They're timing me out. That's not cool.
Okay, who's timing you up?
I don't know how to see that, but that's not cool.
Okay, I'll double check. Come on, man. Let's not do like some madness. Yeah, let's make sure you show the brother some respect. All right. Only if he's doing something wrong. All right. Then time him out. But otherwise, try not to time him out. Okay. Go ahead, family.
Yeah. So I was saying, so yeah, on this topic, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of zoned out a little bit. I was listening a bit, but you presented, like, I've watched, and I jumped in initially just to say, well done, good job, Kalam. Like you said, because I've watched like a couple of your shows, and you've done like the Age of Aisha a lot, and you presented the facts. And unfortunately, it's a lot of the time other, like, Sunni brothers or Salafi brothers who want to come in and debate you on it. But then also, you got Takia watching other brothers who want to debate you on it. And for me, it's like, it's a situation where you said, it's never been Sahih that for a fact that she was 9 years old or whatever, but people have tried to push it and promote that as the idea. For me, I don't take that as the view, but I think if there is a wider question about whether people are using it to justify child marriage in certain areas, I'm happy to discuss that conversation. But into the conversation of whether the prophet was actually dating a young girl, I think, like you said, you present ample evidence to show reasons why that possibly and most likely wasn't the case. Do you know what I mean? So,
If
like I say,
But my
if I could challenge the point myself, because the Kalam, he stated that yeah, when you read in Ibn Kathir and Al Jalalain, you will read that they're talking about young girls. But when you go to the earlier sources, then you won't find that there. All that has been established by making that point is that there's a disagreement within Islam, that there is no consensus. And as I was trying to point out earlier, there's never been a consensus from the start of Islam. There isn't something that is so-called Sahih or something that isn't, because even in the time of Umar, we read in the Hadiths how Umar wanted to fight a man because he heard him reciting a Quranic verse different from than what the Prophet had revealed to him, to the point where he wanted to jump over the man, but he waited till he finished his prayer, then wrapped the sheet around his neck and took him to Muhammad and said, recite and show him what you recite to him what you was reciting out loud. And then Muhammad at that time tells him, no, you're both right, even though clearly there had to be some type of contradiction if it would stir up that much emotion from Umar. So even when Umar was giving received his recitations, it was different from other recitations. Then when we read about how the Quran came together, how the people of Sham and Iraq are going to war with one another over different recitations, that there was no consensus even in the time of Uthman, that he had to then take all their Qurans, burn them, and then try to give a Quran. But even then it didn't work, because we know that even up till Ibn Kathir and Al Jalalain says different things than the supposed Sahabas that Kalam has given us, meaning that from the beginning of Islam, there is nothing that's established as Sahih. All you can say is that there's a different school that thinks that maybe this is not possibly true, but we can't say for sure that they are wrong and that they got it right. But all you can say is that they have differing thoughts. But there never been no established understanding of what Islam is, and that's what I'm trying to get to the point of. Is it seems that we're making an assumption, or just to defend Islam, that, well, we have to accept this school because it says something that is flattering to our ear, but that's not being genuine to what the sources say. We know that this is a practice that just didn't start in the 20th century, but it's been practiced in Islam for a long time. So obviously this had to have been ingrained into the people's minds, but yet we're in a room where people are trying to establish, like, no, this isn't true. This is what they really had. What are you basing that on, when we know that the sources tell you that this is not possibly true?
Can I ask you something? Mo, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mo. You alluded to the fact that you're Christian, right?
Yes, I am.
Right. And you do know within Christianity there's so many denominations and so many ways of understanding Jesus Christ, right?
Yes, there's different denominations, but there's not different understandings of who Christ is.
No, but like, for example, I was talking
yes, there
to
is, bro.
two boys that were Mormons that
Hmm.
said to me that Jesus Christ came over and established a church while he was alive, while other Christians said no, he wasn't. He was betrayed by, I think,
John Smith.
betrayed and by John. Yeah, they talk about a lot of different ways that they take on a lot of different things. So could you not understand that within Islam, as an Abrahamic faith, it within itself has very different denominations and understandings and concepts doesn't have a universal understanding. Like, for example, me and you, we're not going to see the world the same. So what makes theology and philosophy and thinking and beliefs all the same? Why don't we just sit down and just come to a common ground, saying that, okay, it's not okay to get married to somebody who's like a 10th your age, but rather let's understand that maybe, okay, you're not cool with doing that, I'm not cool with doing this, and like just come to more of an understanding of people.
If I could respond, sister,
Can I say something on that?
Yeah, let me respond to what the sister said, brother, because I don't want to lose this point. She made a comparison of the Bible and Christianity compared to Islam, and it's a terrible comparison, because if we have different views on what Christ is, we don't tell you to go to a specific Bible. No, what we do is we all go to the same book and we prove our point or our stance. The problem with Muslims is we can't establish that. I can't go to a Muslim and say, look, this is what this source says, because they say, no, 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 I don't like that source. See, Muslims pick and choose what is best for them at that moment. There isn't a
Bro,
single
that's not.
brother, if you allow me to finish my point, and then you can respond to me. What I'm trying to point out is that if I'm going to make an argument against a Christian brother, I have to go to the one source that we all depend upon. That's the Bible. But when we go to Muslims, Muslims have 10,000 sources. They'll say, go to this scholar, go to Ibn Kathir, go to Al-Jalalain, go to Al-Wahidi, go to this person. We can't ever pin you down, because there's so many different understandings of what it's about, that when we try to say, okay, what source should we go to, there is no
Quran.
consensus. But you would, okay, that's the problem. Again, see, when they always tell us to go to the Quran, then we say, all right, well, I picked this verse out in this Quran, like let's say 22:52, where it says that Satan threw something into his call. I can just come up with the assumption that, hey, Satan can affect Muhammad's calls. And then what does a Muslim tell me? You can't do that. You can't just go to the Quran. You have to listen to what the tafsir tells you about the verse, and you have to go to the hadith. Then we go to the source that you tell us to go to, and then you say, no, 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 we don't like everything within that source, just this one hadith within that source. They'll tell us, go to Sahih Bukhari. When we say, where do you get the 5 night prayers? Because it's not in the Quran.
Listen.
Go to,
Okay.
hold on. They say, go to Bukhari. We go to Bukhari.
Within
Hold on. We go
Okay.
to Bukhari, and then you tell us not everything in Bukhari is trustworthy. So then we question, why did you tell us to go to that source in the first place? If everything isn't trustworthy, why should we trust the one spot you're trying to send us to? It's a simple question.
Me and you are talking right now. I
All
said
right.
to you, did I not say to you earlier on, we don't know what happened because we've only got little tiny snippets of what's happening, and it's so hard. It's like painting the Mona Lisa on concrete floor. It's gonna be really hard, but it's possible. It can be done. And when somebody does its own little thing, when somebody does this own little painting in their own little corner, their own little understanding of all those own little scholars, we're all going to come to our own different conclusions because we don't know exactly what happened, and we can't know what happened about 1400 years ago.
And that's the point, though. That's what I'm trying to
No, but within
establish is
Christianity itself,
okay.
within Christianity itself, we don't know exactly what happened.
No,
There's
no,
just
see,
so
now you're
there's
now you're trying to
2,000
compare
different
apples and oranges.
denominations within Christianity. Are you telling me that every single one of them have an unclear understanding of what Jesus Christ is?
No,
Not
you're
just
you're
Jesus
you're
Christ.
using a
different
non
different denominations have different amount of books. Like the Catholics, they have a amount of books. I think 70 something, and then the Protestants have another amount of books. So you're not all agreed, are you?
no,
No,
no, no.
Catholics
You're
don't
missing
no,
even
the point.
no.
believe
We
in
hold on.
Christians are not all
Catholics
So
don't
agreed.
even believe
They're
so
in,
so
not.
in
They
hell.
prove
this is
themselves not to be just all agreed.
this is the
Oh,
problem, though.
But
We
no. The problem is this. The problem is what you're trying to say about Islam is true of Christianity as well. Okay, as well as it is practiced today. That is why there are so many different denominations. Okay, you have the Mormons, right? They say that they are what? They say that they believe in Christ, right? They believe in
John Smith.
gospels of Christ, right? But they say their prophet is Joseph Smith.
yeah,
Okay? But they claim to be Christians, right? They claim to believe in the gospel of Christ, yes?
yeah.
But they claim Joseph Smith as their prophet. Okay? So you
Is
tell
it?
me if that's contradictory or not.
To
so
them,
again,
it's not.
brother. So if you can, this is the problem that you guys aren't seeing. When we deal with Mormons, the Mormons don't tell you to go to the Bible. They tell you go to the Book of Mormon. This is the reason why we reject them and call them heretical.
Did they
Because
use
we
the
know,
Bible to prove
hold on, brother,
Joseph
hold
Smith?
on. I allowed you to finish your point. Allow me to give me the same courtesy. If we're talking about the Bible, I will tell you to go to who our original church fathers were. Who were the church fathers? We're talking about the 12 apostles who followed Christ. those who are eyewitnesses. So we go to their writings, their teachings, and we establish it. The problem is we can't pin a Muslim down to, we can't, when you talk to a Christian, you say, go to Mark,
Pin
go
a
to
Muslim
Matthew,
down
go to
to the
Luke. Hold on.
pin a Muslim down to the Quran.
Okay, so
Study the
that's the
Quran
point.
and pin the
Hold on,
Muslim
hold on.
down to the
So
Quran. Then
you're saying I should pin
that's
them
their
down to
source.
the
That's
Quran.
the source.
So
That's
when
the
I
source of
when I try
Islam.
to do
The
this,
Holy
when
Quran.
I try to pin them down, right? Okay,
Hmm.
Shias call themselves Muslims, right? What's the difference
Yeah.
between a Shia and a Sunni? Not that there's a difference in the Quran, right? They'll both say, look, the Quran is 100% correct. So if I
Hmm.
go and say, well, I'm going to hold you down
Shias,
to the, hold
can
on,
I just
hold
okay?
on, hold on,
Can I interrupt just a little bit?
man.
Shias believe okay.
I please don't explain what the Shias are until I give my explanation and then respond to it, sister.
Okay, no worries.
The Shias and the Sunnis will tell you the same thing. Go to the Quran. So we'll go to the Quran, but yet these two have two completely different understandings on what the Sunnah is. So you can't pin a Muslim down to the Quran because I can't present an argument that I present to a Shia to a Sunni unless it's just against the Quran. But the majority, and not only the majority, we're talking about the you need the hadith in order to have an understanding of what the Quran is about, because the Quran is unclear. But the Sunnis and the Shias have two
Oh, and the
different
Bible is clear,
hadiths.
right? And the Bible is absolutely clear, right?
Yeah, the Bible is clear. I won't tell you as a Christian. Hold on.
No,
See,
so
I won't tell you as a
So
Christian to go to a source outside of the Bible. I would say no. All we're going to deal with is in the Bible. I don't need no other source. But if I'm
cool.
going to
No,
deal with a
Okay,
to
Muslim,
be
I
fair,
have to
man,
go outside
hang
of the
on.
you're
Quran.
dominating the
All
conversation
right.
now, and you're making a lot
yeah,
of accusations
Go
about what
ahead.
Muslims do and how you
yeah,
can't pin Muslims down to anything. Why don't you let the Muslims speak and see if you can pin them
yeah,
down to something?
yeah.
Hang on. This
Basically,
gentleman was talking about how there's nothing wrong with pinning a Christian down to the Bible. Every single Christian would believe the same thing. But can I ask you something, Mo? Um, we, do you follow the book of
Whose fire alarm is
Genesis?
whose smoke detector is that?
Do you follow
guys,
the book of Genesis within you know the King James version of the Bible?
I follow the Bible from Genesis to Revelation.
oh,
Okay, so let's start with the first verse. Do you want to go through that with me?
I think we
I
deviated
don't
from the
know. I
topic.
don't.
Read the whole book.
Okay,
So
okay, Aaron. In the
before,
beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and the earth was not formed or void. Is that not stated within the first verse, Genesis 1:1?
yes, yes, it is.
Okay, so is that's translated from English, not from English, but it's translated to English from Latin to Greek, and then from Greek to Hebrew, right?
No, it's not. It's translated from Hebrew, so I don't know where you're getting that. The New
No, but it's
Testament's in
been
Greek.
translated. The whole reason why the Reformation of England happened because King Henry VIII wanted to marry another wife, so on and so forth. And then he established his own church and he became the head of Church of England. And when he became the head of Church of England, he understood that he needed to make somewhat of a different form so that his understanding of Christianity was not allied to the understanding of the Pope. Now, necessarily, he did call himself Catholic to the end of his life, but 100 years later, it caused problems within England because England became very divided. We had Protestants and Catholics, and that's how it kind of started. And then eventually, there was a king, King James VI of England, Scotland, sorry, came over and became King James I of England, and assembled the authorized version. Authorized means the version that the people are allowed to read, which is the King James version of the Bible. Yes or no?
Again, I don't know why you're
Mo,
talking
listen,
about.
Mo,
No,
listen.
Hold on,
just
Let me just say this.
hold on.
Let me
Go
let me
ahead, Stacks, man.
earlier, earlier you were saying that you can't pin down Muslims on a certain thing on the Quran. The Quran is essential to the Muslims. Our creed, the Shahada is in the Quran. Everything is the Quran. On the contrary, you don't want us to start speaking about the hundreds of denominations that you have.
that we don't want to.
So Shia is a Muslim? Is a Shia a Muslim?
Yeah, sorry, they're not Muslims. I wouldn't say they're Muslims.
Oh, they're not Muslims, but yet they
Well,
follow the
that's
Quran. You
debatable.
said, hold on. You just said I can't
No,
pin a Muslim down to the Quran. I asked you about a Shia who reads the Quran, and you just told me they're not a Muslim.
Now,
So
but the
I'm
thing
not
is,
the Shia takes
understanding.
from the Quran anyway, even if he's
listen,
not
listen, Mo,
Muslim.
let me say this to you.
Uh-huh.
Their interpretation of the Quran is different to us. Now, I can bring
Oh,
you.
so they have a different Quran. Can you
No,
show me the difference? Can you show us
They
the
have
Shia
the
Quran?
listen, you're being silly now. If I bring another denomination that disagrees with your interpretation of the Bible, I can use the same argument as you. You're being stupid now. Let's talk about.
Brother,
You're being stupid.
don't throw the ad hominems out. Just be
No,
genuine. You just
I'm being.
you made a statement. You said that
Yeah,
I could pin down a Muslim to the Quran. I just
yes.
showed you you literally just contradicted yourself. I said a Shia holds to the Quran, and you just said that they're not a Muslim. So you literally contradicted your own statement.
How?
Yeah, you
I
did
asked you,
contradict yourself. Yeah, you did contradict yourself by saying that
thank you,
about the
brother.
Shia. I mean, I'm not on Mo's side because I'm not a Christian, but Mo is right on that part. You just contradicted yourself.
Okay, so basically, what I'm trying.
How exactly did he do it?
What? Listen to this. What I'm
Who are
saying.
you to say that the Shia are not Muslim?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just
So,
said that all they need is the Quran, and I showed you they read the Quran, and yet you deny them as a Muslim. So it's
oh
not
no,
just about the Quran, right?
no.
They go against
Yeah.
the Quran. That's why. That's what he's gonna say.
Listen, you're confusing. You're confusing me. Now say that again. You just
So
confused me.
you made a statement. You
Yeah,
said that I can pin down a Muslim just to the Quran.
yeah. You
So
can.
I pointed to you that Shias read the Quran, and you just said that they're not Muslims, meaning that I can't just pin down a Muslim to the Quran. Because if these ones who do read the Quran, you say they're not Muslims.
But
You
that's not
Because they
fair.
go
That's
contradict
not
against.
fair.
yourself.
No. That's not fair. That's not fair. You can't just bring me you can't just bring me a heretical. Listen, you believe the Mormons are heretics, yes? So if
Because
I
they
bring
follow the Book of Mormon. It's not in
no,
the Bible.
they actually follow the
They
Bible.
accept the
They,
Bible as well.
they accept the Bible, yeah. So you can't do that.
Look,
You
Yes,
can't
they
play.
do.
again,
You can't play
Yes,
them games.
yes,
Is
they
it?
do accept the Bible as well. This is
Yeah.
true. I
Yeah.
know
brother,
Mormons, and I know they accept the Bible as well. Because
With
again,
I'm a Mormon.
Mormons is in itself is a form of a lot of places in Mormonism is a
You
form
could
of
talk about
Freemasonry.
Jehovah's Witness, not even a Mormons.
Well,
Yeah,
Jehovah's
Jehovah's Witness.
Witnesses they follow the King
They
James
don't have
version of the
another book, do
Bible.
they?
No,
What
they
about
follow the
Catholics?
They
Catholics as
take
well.
the Bible.
Catholics.
when you're
But most
talking,
people say they're not
they
Christians,
follow
isn't it?
the King James version of the Bible.
when you're
It's just
talking,
the
when
Mormons that follow the Book of
Even the
Mormon.
Catholics, I would say, what's it called? They're the mainstream. The Protestants are actually the minor sect in Christianity. The Catholics are the mainstream in Christianity. So when you're talking about the Sunnis, we're the mainstream. The Shias are a small sect in Islam. They're about 10% of all Muslims. So you bringing them up and trying to compare us to them with their interpretation. They use hadiths that we don't agree with at all.
No,
They
but
have books.
did you hear
you
what you
can't
just said?
say
Hold on, you admit that they follow hadiths different. Not that their Quran is different, but their hadiths are different.
Yeah.
And I already established this that the Sunni hadiths are not the Shia hadiths. But you literally just proved my point that you cannot pin a Muslim to the Quran, but rather it also depends on the hadith. You literally proved my point.
One second. Let me just get what you're trying to say to me.
That's it,
Listen.
man.
I'm
So
confused.
basically,
I don't really get it, to be honest.
okay. Let me just say this to you. Let me say this to you. Who's the majority in Muslims? Are the Sunnis or Shias? Which one is the majority?
What
No,
has
no.
that
One,
got
It
to
It's
do
doesn't
with
not
this
about
matter.
discussion?
majority. It's not about
majority
majority.
doesn't matter.
The
Majority
majority
does not
doesn't
matter.
matter. It matters
This
that you
doesn't.
follow the edict of the Holy Quran if you're a Muslim. Yes or no?
No,
Of
it
course,
doesn't
yeah.
matter. Like the majority does not matter.
Yes or no?
It's
yeah, I
Yes.
agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, then. So it
So you can
doesn't
pin us
matter. It
down.
doesn't matter if you're the majority or the minority.
But
Those
listen.
those people who claim to be Muslims and follow the edicts and live their lives, okay, by the divine revelation of the Prophet Muhammad,
Yeah.
okay, in the Holy Quran, they are Muslims, are they
But
not?
yeah, I agree with you. But
Okay.
in case of Christian as well, they take Mormons as heretics. Yes. So why in our case we can't do the same thing? Why are you using two groups of Muslims and try to cause conflation between the two of them and say, yo, we can't pin Muslims down to the Quran? You can't actually pin the Muslim down to the Quran. You just have to. If right now, I'm just gonna say this: you can pin Muslims to the Quran. That's my last point.
Brother, not only can I not pin a Muslim down to the Quran, I can't even pin a Sunni Muslim down to the Quran because even within the Sunni schools of thought, as Brother Kalam already established and showed, there's so many schools of thought. There is no consensus. There's never been a consensus, even within your Sunni text that tells you from the
There's never
establishment
ever been a
from
consensus.
hold on, from Umar to the establishment of the Quran to after the
Islam.
Quran was made, people have been fighting over the recitations, meaning
No,
that there.
no. That's a lie.
Oh my
That's a
gosh.
big lie. Why are you lying? No.
He said there's
Is it a
never ever
lie?
been a consensus on anything. That's what
He's
he
lying.
just
Yeah, he's lying.
declared.
He's lying.
So they
He's
never.
definitely lying.
There's not a
What do
consensus
you
that
mean?
Allah
What do you
is.
mean? Like he's lying in what way though?
Okay, he's talking about the qiraat of the Quran. Innit? There's different qiraat of the Quran.
I know there's
It's
7
preserved.
qira'ats of the
Okay,
Quran.
okay. Listen. No one argued about that fact. That was revelation from the Creator. It's not something that we made up. That was a revelation itself. The 7th qiraat was a revelation. So him trying to say the Muslim scholars never had the consensus of this is absolute lie.
Hold on, brother. Hold on.
They
So when
probably
Umar,
did because people back then were very divided.
so
No.
when Umar, hold on.
They
So
were.
hold on.
They
They
were
weren't.
They didn't
divided.
accept the
Why do you
Prophet
have
as a
why do you
prophet.
have two main sects of Islam? Why do you need any sects at all? If they're all Muslims and they all follow the Quran, then there should be no contradiction whatsoever. There should be no
Exactly.
fight,
That's
right?
not true, man.
There's
Exactly.
only one main
Wait
sect.
Of
a minute.
course, there's going
Why
to
is
be
it not true?
deviations.
Wait a
Every
minute.
religion
If
has,
you
even
if you
There's
Christianity.
only one main
the
sect.
point I'm making is this. The point I'm making is
Yeah.
this. If you are a Muslim, yes, then
Mhm.
you believe that you do believe that the Holy Quran, right, is divine revelation from the Prophet Muhammad. Yes or
Yes.
no?
Yeah.
Okay, then. So why should there be a contradiction, okay, between how two sects who follow the same faith, they're people of the same book, okay? Why is it a contradiction
Okay,
here?
Because
Shia
they
is
don't
not even
take
that.
the
Shia is
Because
understanding of the
people don't
Prophet.
agree on the same issues and the same beliefs. Like for example, there's many Muslims that are
Mhm.
like Sufis that use music. For example,
Mhm.
music in sort of mainstream Islam is people say it's haram. When I don't, I see, okay, how is it haram, and I try to find out evidence for it, and there's not a lot of concrete evidence to support it. And there's a whole denomination within Islam, the Sufism, where they use music to get close to God and to
They
his
dance.
oneness. Yes, dance. So we don't know music if it's haram, or we don't know a lot of things, and that's where the disagreement happens. Even within the two main sects of Islam, Sunni and Shia, they can't agree on how, like for example, Shias, they pray differently to Sunnis, the rest of the Sunnis.
Let's be
So we
honest.
don't.
Let's be honest. The Shia Hadith is absolutely weak. I've checked the narration of the Shia Hadiths. The people in the narrations, we don't know them. We don't know who they are. But on contrary, when you look at our Sunni Hadiths, each person gets scrutinized, and we know their biography, where they moved, when they moved. But when you look at the books of Al-Kafi, when you look at books of Shia, the Hadiths are just made up. That's why we don't take Shia seriously. They are a political movement. I wouldn't say they're even a sect of Islam. They are a small minority. Most of
Reaction to Sunnis.
No,
That's
but
yes, yeah.
They
then
are the
again,
the
you
two
can
main
say
sects of
about
Islam.
No, they're not two main. They're
they're
not
not
main.
main. Sunni,
The two
Shia,
main
main.
sects are
They're not
Sunni
a
and
main.
Shia,
They're
are
not,
they not?
they're not a main sect. No, sorry. They're nothing.
They're a minor sect.
They're a minor sect.
But they are still Muslims.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
They claim it.
They can claim
So the
anything.
I don't
Sufi,
know
the
Wait,
about
Ibadi,
that one.
the
They claim
Shia
Islam,
are not
right?
Muslims.
They claim Islam. They study the same
No,
books. Do they not?
And
That they both agree is in fact of Prophet Muhammad. Yes or
yeah,
no? Okay then.
not necessarily.
So
Not
the
necessarily.
point
Not
the point I'm making is this: whether they're a minor sect, a weak sect, or whatever the case may be. Okay, you can't say there's consensus when you have two sects, two different groups of people who
consensus
study the
between you.
same book and agree that this is the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, yet they have two different points of view of how that teaching
So you,
Yeah, but
should
what
be
does that?
studied.
But what does that prove specifically?
that's what
Which is
happens in
say
every
people
religion.
have
It proves that there's
cultures and
not
different.
consensus, is what this proves.
So does
Well,
Christianity.
well,
Christianity has no
yeah, but
consensus.
hang on, let me.
So
I don't
Christianity.
think
Sorry,
that
I
either.
don't get what you're
can
trying
I?
to say.
Sorry,
Yeah, I know.
sorry.
What is he trying
There's
to say?
no consensus. That's what he's
There's
saying. There's
There's
no
no
argument or
consensus.
debate about it.
well,
There
That's
is
what I'm
no
well,
saying.
consensus.
If
When
there
we
was
talk about
consensus, we wouldn't be,
consensus, we're
right.
talking
if
about
there was
between the
if there,
Sahaba.
if there was consensus, we
Well,
wouldn't be
guys,
having this
the reason.
conversation right now.
Okay, well, let me tell you this. Yeah, let me just say it.
Let me just respond to that. Sorry. Of course, it's not going to be consensus, right? There's disagreement generally amongst people,
Yeah.
whether religion's in place or not. right? So they're not going to share the same viewpoints.
Yes.
Look at Christianity, for example. There's at least 15 to 20 main
Well, this is what I'm
Protestant
saying.
viewpoints and
But the
sects,
point of the matter
right?
is this: the Christian brothers said that there's no consensus among the Muslims. There's no
No,
consensus
Yeah,
among
but
the
that does
Christians either.
listen. Just because there's not a consensus doesn't mean their viewpoint to be correct. You
It doesn't
understand?
mean your viewpoint is correct either.
oh,
As
oh,
a
let me ask you
Sunni.
this. Let
No,
me ask
it
you
If
no,
you
it
are a
actually
Sunni,
does. It's
So
no, it
actually
doesn't.
it's
How does
actually
it?
does
How?
because it's backed by fact.
How?
No, it's backed by actual fact
Let me
no,
and
let's
guess.
how the
You're a
research
Sunni Muslim, aren't you?
has been
Okay,
done.
what
You're
facts?
a
What
Sunni Muslim,
facts?
aren't you?
No, I'm just saying, like, you
Okay,
have to
what
use
facts
logic.
there
then?
is
Unless
nothing
you've done the research
Muslim.
yourself, you cannot sort of
You
take
just
that
have,
position, can you?
We just follow the listen, let me tell you this, Mo. Let me just ask you this
I'm
question.
asking you. You say that the Sunni, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, they are Muslims while the Shia are considered to be non-Muslims. What I'm asking you is this.
Yeah.
Okay, what makes them so much greater Muslims than the Shia?
what
That's the question I'm
deviates them?
asking.
So is that what you're asking now?
Yes,
Well,
that's what
Okay.
I'm
there's a whole
asking.
science to do your
Oh,
research. I
so
mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, obviously you know about it, so you should be able to tell me something.
yeah, the Shia
well,
is
so
What's
basically
the
what you're asking me to
deviations
do
of
is
the
provide
Shias?
you
That's what you need to know
evidence.
now.
Is that what you're
okay.
asking?
Basically, the Shias have a principle of just cursing the Sahaba, and these Sahabas were great friends with the
Who's
companions.
a
The
Sahaba? Say,
and Umar, Uthman, what's it called, Abu Bakr. They
All
curse the
Shiites
Sahaba.
came to Sahaba.
Oh yeah, no,
no, they don't
not
openly.
not openly, not openly. They can't do it openly. Obviously, they get that's causing hatred between Muslims. Obviously,
They
come on,
don't do
man.
it openly, and a lot of them don't do it at all. To be
Yeah,
fair,
some
do
of
Yeah.
you
them. Yeah,
know?
true.
Okay, but carrying on. They basically the curse of Sahaba. They have a lot of deviation. They're a deviated sect. Even the Prophet spoke about this. He said there will be 73 sects. Only one of them will enter heaven. The ones that
Are you
keep.
talking about the Hawarij?
No, Shia.
No, no,
No, it's the
Oh,
Shia.
those people that will cause
nah, I'm not speaking.
problems after the Prophet, they're called the Hawarij, like people that
Nah, we're not
are
speaking about. Speaking about the Shia now.
no, but what I'm
Do you
saying
guys want to
is
have
the
a
people.
Sunni Shiite discussion? Because I mean, this
Yeah.
conversation's
You
got.
know what? You know what is? You know what is? You know what is? Shias are similar with when you
Where's
ask the
Raza?
Christian. And Shias are similar when you ask the Christians, where is the Trinity in the Quran? When you ask them where is the Imama in the Quran, they can't give you explicit verse in the Quran. It's like the Christians when you ask them the question, where is the Trinity in one verse where the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit are one? Where is that in the Bible? They have difficulty finding that. They are just what's it called? A similar reflection to the Shia group. The Shias when you ask
so
where
I
is the
have a I have a question. I have a question, brother,
Go on.
because right now it's just a bunch of talk. I have a question. I want to read something from your Sahih, and I want to ask you a question after it. I want to read exactly what this Sahih hadith says. All right, it says narrated Anas bin Malik. Hudayfa bin al-Yaman came to Uthman at the time when the people of Sham and the people of Iraq were waging war to conquer Armenia and Azerbaijan. And it says Hudayfa was afraid of their people, the people of Sham and Iraq's differences in the recitation of the Quran. So he said to Uthman, O chief of the believers, save this nation before they differ about the book as the Jews and the Christians did before. So Uthman sent a message to Hafsa saying, send us a manuscript. Hold on one second. It says, send us a manuscript of the Quran so that we might compile the Quranic materials in perfect copies and return the manuscripts to you. Hafsa sent it to Uthman. Uthman then ordered Zayd bin Thabit, Abdullah bin Azubair, Sa'ad bin al-As, and Abdul Rahman bin Harith bin Hisham to rewrite the manuscripts in perfect copies. Uthman said to the three Quraysh men, in case you disagree with Zayd bin Thabit on any point in the Quran, then write it in the direct dialect of the Quraysh. The Quran was revealed in their tongue. They did so. And when they had written many copies, Uthman returned the original manuscript to Hafsa. Uthman sent to every Muslim province one copy of what they had copied and ordered that all the other Quranic materials, whether written or fragmentary manuscripts or whole copies, be burnt.
Yeah, so
So
what's your point? What's your point?
hold on. So this is my point, right? What's the difference between you and the Shias and the difference between the people of Sham and Iraq? they wanted to fight and kill one each other, and both of them said that they both had the wrong recitation, and it took Uthman and the crew to be able to try to squash the beef by creating a new Quran that everybody can then just like. What's the difference between you and the Shias and the people of Sham and Iraq?
I think you're just trying to confuse people. Or that you're not even posing a question. You just read
I
something.
just
That's
pointed you
No. He asked a valid question. Look, the reality is this, yeah. People need to do a lot more research now. The scholars worldwide, I suppose, right? The viewpoint is such that the Sunni, I suppose, evidence weighs up. Do you understand? Now, I can't factually cite it, I'll be honest with you, and neither can majority of the Muslims, right? Which is pointless. Why going back and forth and, using the Christian sects and all this nonsense as a response is useless, right? But the reality is the prominent scholars of the world today in Islamic culture, from my understanding, they deem the Sunni correct method. There's a way to analyze this, right? So there's a whole science to decipher the hadiths and all that sort of the texts, and they've done that. And there's a lot of fabrication with the Shias. It's sort of
yes, totally agree.
contradictory and it's like blasphemous. It goes against the teachings of Islam at its core values. You understand? So
You want to give some example?
So
yeah, go on.
so
But
basically,
where are the Shia and where are the Shia sect and the Sunni sect? Where are they mentioned in the Quran itself?
say that again.
The differences between the
They're
two.
not.
Where is the for example the Sunni sect of Muslims and the Shia sect of Muslims? Where is it
Came
written
later on.
specifically about those two sects? Okay, of
Okay,
Came
Muslims.
later on. The Shias came
Okay,
later on.
Who said that
and
they
Sunni
were
and
mentioned in the Quran?
Sunni based.
why are they not mentioned in the Quran?
No,
If
no.
they're so
Why would they
prominent,
be
why are they
mentioned in
not
the
mentioned in
Quran?
the Quran?
Why
Yes,
would
we are.
they be
They
mentioned
are.
in
They
the
are. They
Quran?
are.
Where?
Listen,
Where
the
are they?
The
Sunni.
deviated people.
Okay, I'll tell you. مهاجرون الأنصار الذين تبعوهم بإحسان رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه وأعد لهم جنات تجري من تحت الأنهار. This is a verse that's saying follow the companions and the teachings of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad. This is
Okay,
let me
but
finish. Let me finish.
what surah and what verse is that?
Okay,
It's
I will tell you. I will tell you. Basically,
9
okay. Then
100.
tell me, please, so I can look it up.
well, brother, tell him.
Surah Tawbah, ayah Surah 9, verse 100.
So basically,
Surah 9, verse 100.
okay,
Okay.
the main difference between the Sunnis and the Shias is the Shias basically don't follow the companions of the Prophet. They say the companions are kafirs. They're deviated after the Prophet died, which goes on contrary with the Quran says. The Quran actually says Allah has forgiven the people of the Muhajirun and Ansar, and what's it called, and has given them reward. So what I'm trying to say to you is Shia is just a political movement. They are not actually a sect. Once you apply the science of hadith to their hadiths, they will be left with a few with about a handful of hadiths, a handful of
So,
hadiths.
so,
They
so
Okay, thanks. Mo, I wanted to ask you a question as a Christian. I'm not here to attack your belief system. I just generally want to learn something about Christianity. Could you please just tell me, as a Christian, what are your views on the Christians who are called Unitarians and their beliefs? Do you see them as Christians as well, or do you feel that they deviated from the faith?
okay, that's a very good question. When we deal with a Unitarian, right? What we'll do with the Unitarian is we'll go into the same script. We won't say no, go to John or go to this. We'll say let's open the Bible and let's see if you can prove your point. If somebody is not going to accept God for who God is, then yeah, of course they're not following God. It's not my opinion. It's just you are not following what God said. The same way with Israel, if you chose not to follow the commandments of God, even if you were an Israelite, you then fall away from God. You are no longer following the God of Israel. Therefore, you are not amongst your Israelite brethren. Just because you were born into it doesn't mean that you automatically have some type of free connection to God, or somehow responsibility doesn't fall into your lap. But when we deal with a Unitarian, of course, I'll tell them you are not following what's orthodox, what's established from the beginning of our faith, even within our scriptures and with our church fathers, but you are the one who is the outsider. But the difference is when we look into this source, the reason why I wanted to use this source that when we were that showed that there was differences in the recitations is to show Muslims that that this actual hadith doesn't say which one was right. We know that both of them had differing views, meaning that only one of them could have possibly been true, or both of them could have been wrong, but they both possibly couldn't have been true. But what we see is that Uthman and the Sahabas, they didn't pick a side. They didn't say, look, you guys, you ones in Iraq are right and the people in Sham are wrong, or the people in Sham, you're right, but the people in Iraq was wrong. But it literally says that they're both Muslims, that they are both Muslims, just with different recitations. It means, of course, they're going to have a different understanding. That's why they needed Uthman to create a new one, because their books were corrupted from the jump. They disagreed with one another. It's not like they can both go to their Quran and say, look, let me show you how you're wrong, because their two sources are, brother.
Where did you get that from?
Nah,
Doing is incorrect.
Incorrect information.
Is it incorrect? Do you want me to read it to you again? Do you want me to read it to you again?
You said it was corrupt. That's what you said from it.
Exactly. What I'm saying is they both can't possibly be. Look, using logic, right? If there's only one truth, hold on. If there is one truth, listen. If there is one truth and two different stories, we know that it's impossible. And if the stories contradict one another, we know it's impossible for both stories to be true. But we can establish that there's a possibility that one of them is true or both of them are false. But what we can establish for sure is that they both can't be true. As we read in this hadith, it says that they had differing views, meaning that one of them had to be wrong or both of them were wrong. Meaning that there was a sect who had a corrupt understanding.
Right, I understand all that, but what I'm saying to you is there's a way to distinguish which hadith is actually factually correct and which has been fabricated or which is not 100% reliable. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I'm saying that none of it is reliable because we can establish.
But how do you make that judgment?
I'll show you how I make that judgment. Because even in the time of Umar, when Umar heard a man reciting, what do you mean? No, I have to. I have to establish a timeline because.
No, but hang on. Before we even get to that, have you studied how to decipher and the science of deciphering which hadith is 100% factual or not?
Yeah.
The narration you're saying, how is it authentic?
No, hang on. Let me just give him a chance to answer.
The narration that I'm giving is from a book. Hold on, is from a book that.
If you could just answer my.
I'm trying to answer the question. I'm trying to answer it. I'm reading from the sources that your scholars took the time to translate for us laymen who can't speak the Arabic, that they said is the most reliable sources. Now, if you have an argument against them, I suggest you hold on. I suggest that you write to them and tell them stop translating untrue hadith because they're using it against us. But obviously, they felt that it was important enough for us to know it because they translated it for us.
What book is it?
That's how you're uneducated.
Hold on. Time out.
You know what it is? He's basically ignorant and uneducated on the fact that he doesn't know
the person who translated it isn't a scholar.
So this is Sunnah.com that I'm reading everything from. If you have an argument against what Sunnah.com has written, go talk to them. Don't talk to the person who's bringing to you what they wrote.
Doesn't have unauthentic information.
Could it be potentially true then? Could it be potentially true that they might have gathered certain hadiths just for knowledge purposes?
Yeah.
What kind of knowledge would I gain? What kind of knowledge would I gain from this?
The viewpoints that the viewpoints in the time that other sects sort of fought false, or other hadiths that were out there, to distinguish the fabricated ones from the original ones.
We're not talking.
The onus is on us to do the research and apply the methodology.
All you're doing is bringing a narration.
If you haven't applied that, all you're doing is pretty much reading out loud. That's all you're doing.
So
right?
you're saying,
He's
hold on,
reading
hold on.
from a book.
So let me understand this. Let me
Ah,
understand
Sure.
this, because there's a reason why I was trying to establish a timeline to show you
Right.
that it's not me who's being inconsistent, but it's all the Muslims who are trying to deny the evidence that's being brought to them. I'm trying to show you that from the establishment of Islam all the way through the imams and so forth, even until this day, there has never been a consensus in Islam. Today we have a
Yeah.
difference. Hold on. Today, we have a difference between the Shias and the Muslims and the Sufis and this and that, right?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you have
Okay.
the different schools. You have the different schools of thought, even within Sunni Islam. But
Okay.
then
Right.
we can go to the Quran that was then passed out to everybody by Uthman, that had to be
Right.
created because there was no consensus. And then you could even go back even further to when Umar
No.
heard a
No.
man
No.
reciting. Hold on, I'm establishing three different time frames to show you that
Right.
I'm not trying to cherry pick a specific time, but I'm showing you
just
that
bring a
this is
narration
the.
that's
No.
authentic.
Mo,
That's
listen.
No, no,
Listen.
no. But
Mo, listen.
basically, what
Listen.
I was trying to
Oh
say to
my
you, mate,
gosh!
was
Look, give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes, and
Hold
then
on.
you guys can just go on your rant, say whatever you got to say.
Ah,
But
yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah. Go.
show you that through three different periods, up until today, even in the time of Uthman, and even in the time of Umar, who was the second rightly guided caliph, only behind Abu Bakr, when he heard the man reciting a Quranic verse different from how he had heard it, it stirred him up so bad that he wanted to snatch the man by his neck. But out of respect, he held himself back, waited till he finished the prayer, then wrapped the sheet around the man's neck and drug him to Muhammad. He was so offended at what he heard, he didn't want to let the man walk away, but he dragged him to the prophet and made him recite in front of him to show that even Umar had different recitations from people. So
What did the
why
prophet
then,
say? What did the
why
prophet
would
say?
I then? He said, you're
Finish.
both right. He says, you're both
Yes.
right. That's
Yes.
exactly. So that means that the people of Iraq and the people of Sham could have both been right. That means that the Shias and the Sunnis can both be right. But we know how illogical and dumb that sounds. We know they're not the same. Even Umar knew it wasn't the same because he snatched the man by his neck. And this whole description of a aharuf doesn't make sense to nobody. How can you explain something in 7 different ways and yet have 7 different meanings, and you expect us to believe they mean the same thing, though? That's dumb.
Well, at the end of the day, unless the methodology is applied 100%, there's no certain way of knowing, and you haven't applied that, right? So I can't, you know,
Whose
go based off.
methodology should I use? Should I use the people of Shem or the people
No,
of Iraq? Whose?
no. Well, all they've done is quote a hadith, right? How they compiled that hadith, you know, God knows,
So
right?
can I just
So
say
what
something?
I'm trying to explain to you is, unless you yourself, it's the onus is on the individual. So have you traced it back and seen whether that hadith is 100% authentic or not?
Basically, he's saying the narration that you got about the sham and that, is it authentic?
Yeah, about
Yes,
According
it's
to
in.
our conditions, is it authentic? Or you just bring in any book? Because I can bring any book right now, quote a narration. He's
Look,
saying that basically.
Oh,
I
Mo, can I ask you this question? Let me
I
just ask you this.
I quoted from Sahih Bukhari. All right, I quoted from
No, you keep
Sahih
going back
Bukhari
to that, and I understand that. I
4987.
accepted that.
Oh, Mo, let me
No,
ask you this question.
we accepted that.
Can you just summarize what you said?
But
Are you
have you
basically
applied it yourself?
no, don't let me ask you this.
The answer is no.
Are you basically saying the qira'at, the different recitations are all different to one another? And that's why you corrupted. Is that what you're saying?
Hi everyone.
I'm trying to show you that the silly notion that you can have two contradictory statements about the same thing
Like
and
what?
yet they mean the same. Omar obviously
Yeah.
hated what the man was saying. That's
He
why he
heard,
drug him.
Oh,
Hold
okay.
on.
Yeah,
it
he's right. He's
sounded
right.
He
Can
different.
drugged the
It
man
was
let him
to
finish?
Muhammad.
Yeah, go on.
He drugged the man to Muhammad because the man's recitation was different from his.
Yeah.
Obviously,
yeah.
the difference was not saying, look, he went to the store and he went to the shop. Who would get mad at something like that? Obviously, it had to be
How do you know he
something.
wouldn't get mad?
Now, what's
Why?
what?
Bro,
Why?
don't be like that.
Okay, basically, what I would
Because
say
they
to that,
cared about the preservation of the Quran. That's why.
let me just what's it called, give an answer to that. So basically, when they went to the Prophet said both of you are right. Do you know that? Do you know that part when he said both of you are right? Do you understand that part?
Exactly. Yeah,
So,
and it had to say that at that time. Also, Umar said in his heart at that time he has never felt so much doubt about Muhammad as to that point. This was one of the questions that caused Umar to even question the prophethood of Muhammad, because even in his mind, he can see that there's a clear difference in the recitation than
yes.
what he gave. So
Okay. Okay.
why would he
Okay.
all of a
Now
sudden have a doubt
you've been
about
speaking for a
Muhammad's
lot now.
prophethood? Oh,
You've been
go
speaking for a
ahead.
lot now.
You
So
asked me a question. I'm
oh yeah,
responding.
understand. So let me just give you the basic knowledge. There were 7 different qira'at, 7 different recitations of the people of the Quraysh. There's a Quraysh dialect and there's other tribes. To make it easy for the people, Allah revealed the Quran in 7 different dialects to make it easy for the people. And Umar never knew about this. So once he heard someone else reciting the Quran different to him, he got shocked. And he rightly got shocked. So he brought him to the Prophet. The Prophet said, both of you are correct. This is when we know now, right now, that the Quran is a different dialect. So right now, you can check for yourself and research this. The Quran, we can read the Quran in 7 different dialects till today. All of them are preserved. All of
So
them
so
are. Go on.
So are you saying that the people of Iraq
Yeah.
and the people of Sham went to
Yeah.
war
You
because of
keep on
different
bringing Iraq and
translations?
Yeah.
Sham.
No,
Yeah.
I'm
Want to know
showing
where
you.
this narration is from and what's the
What's
sanad?
that got to do? What's that got to do with warring? War? What are you trying to? What are you
Because what
trying?
I'm trying to point to you is your utter hypocrisy. You're trying to say in one instant it's a different Qudiyat, but in another instant you're saying, no, 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 these are completely different recitations. No,
Yeah.
when we read about the people of
Wow.
Iraq, hold on. When we
What
read
is
about
this
the people of Iraq
Iraq
and of
thing?
Sham, we don't hear about them having different Qudiyats. We're hearing about them having
Diff
different
view,
Qurans.
different views. Okay,
Oh,
Oh,
no,
good.
no.
that
Listen. Let me just.
where is
Okay.
that
Okay.
narration from and what's
No,
the
no,
That's
he's
sanad from?
purposefully. No, 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 no. I get what he's trying to do. He's purposely trying to confuse himself and trying to confuse other people. You just
How am
heard.
I confusing?
Oh
Who's
no,
confused except for you? I
no,
clearly read your verse.
I'm not confused. I
And
know the Quran is.
the short explanation of this that Muhammad was bastard, and Muhammad must come out from this situation, and that's why Muhammad said both of them is good. That's
Exactly.
the because
He got caught in a lie.
they bested Muhammad.
No, no, no. I disagree
Muhammad get
totally.
bested.
No, I
He
totally
got he
disagree.
got caught in a lie and could not. This is what the logical. This is what an outsider would think, right? When we read something like that, Muhammad got caught giving 2 different recitations, and instead of trying to actually have a truthful way of dealing with it, he just said that they were both right. And what I'm
Exactly.
trying to and what I'm trying to show you is that even during that time, so showing that Muhammad gave contradictory surah verses, then this confusion of the 7 Qudiyats means that every one of them has to be correct. It's just a
Yeah,
different Qudiyat,
yeah.
but yet we don't read that. We don't read in that hadith that I showed you that Uthman said, no, 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 you guys have different Qudiyats. You're the same thing. He literally had to take their Qurans, burn them, and give them a new one. It's
Why did he do that?
simple.
Why did he do that?
Because they had different Qurans. That's the
No,
point.
no,
There's
no, no. So
never no consensus. Okay, I will
okay,
read the last part to you again of this Sahih. Sahih Al Bukhari 4987. I'll read the last 2 sentences. It
you're
says,
just dominating the
they,
conversation, man. We
hold
can't do
on. It
nothing,
says
man.
they did so, and when they had written copies, Uthman returned the original manuscripts to Hafsa. Uthman sent to every Muslim province 1 copy of what they had copied and ordered that all the other Quranic materials, whether written in fragmentary manuscripts or whole copies, be burnt. Meaning that Uthman gave everybody a Quran that he liked and then burned all the other ones. So that way there won't be no more confusion in between them. I'm not sure which part of that you're missing.
Okay, I'm missing the part that you don't understand that the Quran was revealed in different recitations. It was revealed in 7 different ways. That's why you think Muhammad actually made this up by himself. This was actually revealed by the Creator himself. So when you're trying to this is the answer that he gave, that both of them are right. And
That's
these
the
very
example. That's a brainwashed person,
What does that mean exactly? What does that
brainwashed
mean?
Muslim. That's the example.
What do you mean 7 recitations? What does that even mean?
basically what they mean is there's 7 different ways or somewhat pronunciations
oh,
you have. For
what?
say, for example, the Y in Arabic could be pronounced in some dialects with um an A, or it could be pronounced just as the Y as it is. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I don't, and it's confusing me because if you're saying that there's seven aharufs, we should expect that the seven aharufs should be saying the same thing. It shouldn't be if you're just saying that it's a different language or whatever you want to say it is. Let's say it's seven different languages. Well, we should know that they should be in some type of coherence with one another. They should say the same thing. But
They are
obviously,
saying the same thing. It's
so
just
if they're
the
saying the
boys are
same
trying to
thing,
say
why would they try to kill each other or fight one another if they're saying the same thing? That doesn't make logical sense.
no. The
Who would kill
story of Omar.
if I say you go to the store and you say that you went to the shop, we're saying the same thing. But it wouldn't be if we're disagreeing with how we're saying the same sentence, you wouldn't expect it to cause that much of a rift. But we know that the people wanted to go to war with one another. Are you saying it's the simple difference between saying a shop and a store, or is it
No,
something as serious? Okay.
you're talking about two different stories with two different situations and with two different conclusions. First of all, you're talking about the story of when this gentleman was praying before Umar, and then basically he got so angry that he dragged him over to the Prophet and made him recite what he heard. Um, the Prophet then said something about the Qur'an. Basically, Qur'an, there's a lot of different types of Qur'an. There's 7 main types though. And the 7 main types is one of the main ones is Qur'at al-Hafsa. And Qur'at al-Hafsa is a Y in Arabic. If you put like a wavy line on top, you pronounce it differently as in an A instead of the Y. It's a lot more complicated. I'm gonna have to like actually show it to you, but it's just the pronunciation of the letters. Like for example, you like you're American, right? And I'm from the UK. Obviously, you say your R's differently to me. That's kind of the stuff they're trying to talk about. There is a common understanding that they are speaking Arabic. That one is towards more of the dialect. The second issue that you're talking about is the two people um getting into war with each other. The people of Mesopotamia, Iraq region, I think, and then the people of Sham get into war because of the different Qurans. That's entirely possible, and that's a different situation. Okay, if you're talking about there were two different types of Qurans, okay, we can talk about that. That's a different issue. But in your Umar story is not linked into the story of Sham, and that is what I want to say.
So this is the problem is all of us who are on the
You're
outside of
connecting
your
it to
The problem is,
together.
yeah,
all
you don't understand. The problem is you don't understand. We understand. We understand. It's probably you don't
of
understand. You're
course
trying to
of
cause
of,
confusion.
of
Yeah,
course
yeah,
you
okay,
you
He's
you can
trying
confused.
say
to
that
understand what we're
you can
trying.
say
Yeah.
what you can say that you understand, you can say that this so-called scholar understands, but all you're showing is that if the average layman can't come to your faith and understand what it is that you're trying to show them because you have 10,000 different sources, and then when we go into those sources you say you can't trust everything within that source, why should we trust anything that you're saying? I'm showing you from your
I'll
own
tell
sources. I'm showing you
Okay.
from your own
you, Mo.
sources.
That's not
There's
No.
from a source
never been
though.
an agreement,
There
and
hasn't
Yeah,
yet
been.
yeah.
you're trying to sit there and tell us no, there has been an agreement.
Okay.
Show us where
What?
There
this
hasn't been an
unified
agreement.
Islam
Let's
was.
No,
say
I'm actually
listen.
confused on a point that where
Yeah.
isn't there the agreement? Is it the qira'at you're talking about, the haruf? Where isn't there the agreement?
Bro, what
Where
is the difference?
bro,
I'm
that's
asking you,
irrelevant.
explain
why
That's
to
are
me.
you
irrelevant.
picking and
The
choosing?
man quoted a hadith. You know, people should accept it instead of going in circles. Mo, the thing is,
Thank you. Thank you. Finally, somebody said that. I've said this like literally 30 minutes ago. We've been talking about this for like, I don't know, God knows, probably more than an hour now. Can't we just accept that we all see things differently and we all have a different understanding?
right?
Is that
Listen,
hard?
my whole thing is this, Mo. In order for you to find the truth, right, you have to apply the methodology to decipher the hadith and the context that you're looking at, right? It's not just you read it willy-nilly and then just sort of interpret it as you go along, which is what you're trying to do, right? It doesn't tell you that. It tells you to do your research thoroughly. I'm pretty sure if you do that, you'll be able to decipher which is authentic and which isn't. and
Look,
that's where
this
it
is
ends, right?
why are you telling, see, you're making an assumption that I'm going to a source that is not trusted. I went to Suna.com. I'm going to your
Just
sources.
because you go
Hold
to
on,
that website does not
no,
mean
listen,
every.
allow me to finish,
Well, I've heard this several times, and you keep going back to that website. I understand. You got it from sunnah.com.
So the
Right?
onus is
Have
on
you
you now
applied
to
it
show
yourself?
that so now the onus
Okay.
is on you then, because I'm showing the source.
The onus
Now
is
it's
not
the
on
onus
me.
is on
The
you to
onus is not on
disprove
me.
my source. There you
No,
go.
it's not.
The
We
onus
have
is not on me. You're the
three.
one attempting to see whether it's what you've come across is truth or not, right?
What do you
So you
that
have
doesn't
to
make no
apply.
sense.
You have to.
No,
You have to.
No,
I
he is.
don't
He is.
believe
He.
I don't believe any of this is truth. I'm showing you what your sources say. So if you're going to deny the source that I'm
It's not.
presenting,
Is it?
the onus is on you to bring the contradictory evidence.
Okay.
We're not
Okay.
going to
Oh,
go
listen. Listen.
off of your words. All you guys have been presenting is words. I'm actually
It's
presenting you your
not.
own hadith.
Bro,
So who in this situation is
No,
actually
I'm.
Yeah.
being honest about what the evidence points to?
brother
May
Mo.
I give you a for example?
That's
For
how
example,
you. If that's how you interpret it, so be it
may,
then.
may
So
I
be
give
it.
you
No, listen.
may
Let
I
me
give
That's
just
some
where it ends.
example, please?
the evidence you have given is absolutely on point. Is absolutely correct.
Let me give
So the hadith. One second. The hadith that Mo has
yeah.
put in is sahih and is authentic. But I don't see the problem with the hadith. That's what I'm saying. I don't see
So
the problem with the
Can I
hadith that he has
jump?
put.
Can I jump in, please? Brother
In
Mo,
one
man.
side,
Please say 1 minute, please.
yeah.
Bro, if Mo, please, man. I think the people also want to see the share screen of the sources. That's what people are asking for. Could you do that, maybe?
yeah, let me see.
Yeah,
Let me
because people
see.
don't, they don't like it. Then
Honestly, I don't think that's going to make a difference. We're just going to keep going back and forth. I think you should just agree to disagree and let's
but
move on to
then,
something else.
yeah, but then it will be more clear for everybody also in the panel to see that what has been said. You know, it's just that's how Kalam
Are we
does.
allowed to talk about something else now?
Can
Yes,
can you
yes,
see
also.
can you see what I'm posting?
Yeah, we can see it, man. Thank you.
Can you zoom in a little bit more?
Would you guys like me to read it out loud?
If you could zoom in as well at the same time.
I'm not really
The
sure how to
variation that
zoom
he's
in.
even talking about, the variation that he's even talking about are so minute. It's like Malik and Malik, owner and the king. Look at the variation that he's talking about, the ahruf as well.
You see,
What is
this
the
is what
difference?
I'm talking about. It's not going to make a difference if you show it, Mo. You're still going to get certain people disagreeing with you. So it's going to be pointless. That's why I think we should move on to something else. But it's up to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
No,
think
I
as
hear you.
Muslims,
But
we shouldn't speak what we have no knowledge on. So for me, basically, I haven't studied the qira'at or anything like that. So I wouldn't touch on this subject because I haven't studied it or anything, put any work in it.
If I may give you one, for example,
Listen, yo, who's
yeah,
that?
that's saved by grace.
Listen, just be respectful, yeah, and then we can carry on. Because the first thing you said, I left because of that.
What do you mean you left because of what?
This
What do you
guy,
mean
Yeah,
with
man,
this?
you're not.
he cursed the
What's
prophet.
What do
Bro.
you
done
mean with
though?
this?
I think it's this guy.
All right, let's make one
What
thing
has he
clear.
done
Yeah,
though exactly?
let me say
let's make one
something,
thing
Cursed the
please.
clear.
prophet. You
Let me
didn't
say
Sorry,
hear?
let me say something,
let's
please.
What did he
Okay, if he
say?
something
cursed the
clear.
prophet,
You're gonna find.
May
You're
I
gonna
say
come across
something?
people. Let me just finish.
Abdul Khalik, who are you talking about?
One of the
There's,
guys,
there's.
man. One of
I
the
understand
guys
what
on
you're
here.
saying, brother, but you need to realize that certain people don't
They don't
hold
listen.
your viewpoint, right?
Yeah, but you
No.
could be
It's not about
talking it. You
listening.
could talk.
Some
It
people
is
do
here.
not hold your
It is not a
viewpoint.
Sharia law, okay?
Guys, can we not
It's not
speak over
Sharia
each
law.
other?
That's not Sharia law here, okay?
Guys.
Nah, but listen, let's keep
I'm not
some
talking
order.
about that,
Quiet
yo.
server,
I'm just
so
saying
have
when you
respect
speak
for
to
each
each other,
other.
you be
I
respectful.
say
That's it.
that's not Sharia law.
no, but
So
some people are
Shut
not
up,
always
man.
gonna think the way
All
you're.
right. So I'm going to get you all to mute your mics, right? The only person I want to hear from right now is Saved by Grace. And remember the rules, no ad hominems and no swearing. Go ahead, King.
Me?
Yeah, you. Saved by
Okay.
Grace.
Yes, I want to say just something. For example, in Sahih Muslim, number 30, book 37, hadith number 159, the Muhammad saying the bell is the musical instrument of the Satan. In other hadith, in Sahih al-Bukhari, it says somebody asked how the inspiration come to you. Allah Messenger, how is the divine inspiration? The mother of the faithful believers, Al-Harith bin Hisham, asked Allah Messenger, "O Allah Messenger, how is the divine inspiration revealed to you?" Allah Messenger replied, "Sometimes it is revealed like the ringing of the bell." I can read further, but do you see the two things? On one side, it says that's the ringing of the bell is the instrument of the Satan, but the other side, he say that the inspiration comes to him like the ringing bell.
As quick as the ringing of the bell. So he's not saying it's literally a ringing bell.
Sometimes it's revealed like the ringing of a bell.
Exactly. So he's talking about the speed.
No, it's about
okay,
bell.
we can move on now.
Yeah.
You know, for the Muslims, yeah, just a word of advice. It appears that people are getting extremely sensitive for other people giving their viewpoints. Whether they insult, whether they demean, you should be able to take it, right? If you can refute the point that they bring forward, right? Try and
Listen,
do
no,
so. If
I
you
wasn't
can't,
talking about that, to be honest.
let me just finish. Let me finish. This is the example that I'm talking about. You see, you speak over each other, and you're a clear example as to why people hold the viewpoints that they hold. Be the best example that you can. No one's going to agree with you 100% of the time. You understand? It's very clear cut.
Jay,
Right? If you're very content with your faith, so
I'm
be
not
it.
talking
All
about
right?
the disagreements. I was talking when he
No,
said
no,
the prophets are
I am
bastard. That's
talking
it. That's
about
it.
it.
He actually used the word busted, busted, not bastard. He said busted, busted. That's what he said.
Yeah,
Oh, my bad.
I see no evidence to your claim though. No offense though, but like
He
I've not heard anything.
blasphemous to you, it's still valid. He's asking a question, right? If you can refute it, refute it. Some people will come and approach you in a honest manner, right? They've done the research themselves, and some people will nitpick little things and try to sort of throw that at you, right?
I understand that as a Muslim, that even though I don't agree with all the things an average Muslim would say,
Who's
but I
disagreeing
don't
with
get
this?
But that's
offended.
irrelevant whether you agree with it or not. Doesn't mean his
I don't
viewpoint
get
is any
offended over
less more
stupid
valuable than
things.
your
Can I get you
answer.
guys to mute your mics now, please? All right. So before we laid out the laws or the rules on Titans TV, right? 3 rules is to keep your mics muted at all times. If everybody's mic is not muted in the next 5 seconds, I'm going to make room for my Shia brothers to come in. 5, 4, 3. Abdi Khalik, you're gone, you know. Your mic ain't muted, G. 3. Let's see if he does it. 2, 1, 0. Okay, cool. So keep your mics muted, family, okay, at all times. Remember to also respect each other's ciphers. So stop talking over each other. Let's be, let's be nice. We've got now Reggie Mabry has now come through. Our Saber, our Senna, all the way from America. Teacher has now come through. I need you to mute your YouTube. But yeah, I think you've got a question, and possibly it's for the Christians. Nope, don't have a question? All right. Yeah, so Reggie, if you've got a question.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
I think it's always important that when one is criticizing someone else's faith or someone else's belief, and they're criticizing it textually, then they should be able, if they're criticizing, right, they should be able to pull up the primaries. Now, on this point about whether or not Islam was unified, I am not a Muslim. I'm only dealing with the point. I would ask the Christian to show any primary sources that Christianity itself was unified. And the lack of unification of Christianity led to the Islamic uprising, the contradictions in the invading Christian faiths. So I will talk later at some other point about righteousness, but I'm not going to do it right now. But I demand from the Christian brother to pull up primary sources in the language of the so-called early Christians, starting maybe possibly even from Rome, to show that Christianity itself was unified and it was one message.
Well, if I could respond to the brother, what the brother's original point was is that if you're going to critique another religion, therefore you have to be able to uh, critique your own religion at the same time. That's just being fallacious. If we're trying to establish whether this religion is true, it has nothing to do with what my faith is, what Kemetic faith is, or any of that. That's just fallacious. But I'll give you your evidence, all right? When we talk about what the original church, who the original church fathers were, and that they passed down through the apostolic churches that was established from Ethiopia to Syria to Armenia to the churches of Jerusalem. We know that the church fathers, including Polycarp, Clement, and so on, all of our original church fathers were in agreement with one another. We know that they were in agreement with one another because when they dealt with the heresies that then tried to invade the church, it was the church fathers who disputed them. They didn't dispute them out of their own mind, but they actually went to the scripts, the letters of Paul, the writings of Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, and they were able to deal with the heresies. This is where you get the Arians and all of these heretics who come up over time, and we see exactly how the church fathers dealt with them. They had councils where they would bring in all of them, and Rome was later on in the scene. Rome, matter of fact, didn't really get included into it until the Council of Nicaea, which was around the 300s. So when we're talking about who the original church fathers were, they knew what the scripts were because it was them who passed it down to us. We know that the scripts were unified within all of the apostolic churches because the apostolic churches were in constant contact and communion with one another. So to assume that somehow the Christians didn't have this, it just doesn't make sense. We know that it was then proven, and further, the nail in the coffin came with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, where when we actually looked at what was found in the caves of Qumran, we can see there is no contradiction. What was written down in the first century is exactly what we have today. Nobody can point and say, look, this is inside the Dead Sea Scrolls, but yet this isn't in your scriptures. But rather, they can show that the Dead Sea Scrolls confirm exactly what we have today. Now, if you have evidence that shows that the apostolic church fathers, and if you can tell us who these church fathers were that were in disagreement with one another, I would love to see that.
Okay, so let's start. So I'm gonna take me some time to get up my sources, but I'm not speaking as a Christian. So what you did is, first of all, what I'm saying is not fallacious. What I am saying, I asked you, you gave me a great story, told me what your church fathers was. I asked for your primaries. I asked for your primaries so that we can see from your vantage point, if you could prove your case that they did not need those conferences. The reason why they need those conferences was in fact for the clarification. I asked you for the primaries. The problem with the Christian churches, to find the primaries is very, very difficult. You bring in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Where in the Dead Sea Scrolls does it talk about Jesus Christ?
Brother, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the book of John was confirmed. So when you're saying, where are your primaries? I gave you a primary when we're talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, there's many sources, from Polycarp to Clement to all of the church fathers who were in perfect agreement on who Jesus was, what he came to do, and they expound even more, give us even more than what we find in the Bible. And when I say more, in the sense they expand and open up what might be hard for us to decipher, but at the same time, it's not that they add to the words, they just give a clear description on what is there. So the church fathers, we're talking about over 2,000 years ago. We know how difficult it is to even keep papyri, something that is paper, in its original form. That's the reason why when we look at Qumran, it's not just held in these beautiful books, but rather we have fragments, because the paper over time, we know it falls apart. The Egyptians have the Kemitists have the same issue. That's the reason why your best sources are not the papyri, but rather are the coffin texts and the pyramid texts, where you actually have something that was etched or written in the stone that lasts a lot longer than what is in paper. So, go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So here it goes again. So we have plenty papyri, plenty paradigm heralds, uh, plenty of them that has survived in ancient Kemet in good condition. I'm not arguing today ancient Kemet. I'm not arguing that. I'm just arguing some basic things. Let me just show you something. The origin of Jesus Christ. His mother was Mary, right? Is that correct?
Yes, his mother was Mary.
His father was Joseph.
His earthly father was Joseph, but his father's God in heaven.
Okay, great, great. So, and in ancient tongue, his mother was Mary, or is that anglicized? And Joseph, is that anglicized?
I'm not sure what you mean. It's Miriam, where when you
Okay,
actually look at the Semitic languages, yeah, it's Miriam.
okay, great, great. And uh, you one day you'll provide me for a source of that. But I'll tell you this: you know Herod the Great, right?
Herod, yep.
Herod the Great. He chased the parents of your Jesus, right, into Egypt. Is that correct?
He went into Egypt. Yep.
That's correct. Okay. So now I'm just going to show you why all this stuff falls apart about origins, right? Okay. So Herod the Great. Do you know who Herod the Great's wife was?
I'm trying to remember her name.
Oh, it's easy.
I
It's
don't.
Miriam. It's Miriam. Miriam me.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
know who Herod the Great's uncle was?
No.
Okay, great. His uncle's name was Joseph. Do
Okay.
you know that from Josephus, Joseph and Mary had an affair?
So
Why did they
you're
have?
going. So
Yeah,
are you're going? So let me understand this. You're going to a Jew who denies Christ as the Messiah, and you're using him as a source to tell us who
I'm going
Jesus's parents was. Hold on. Even though Josephus, I believe, came almost 100 years after Christ. Am I correct?
I understand, but Josephus now is adding to the story. Is textual. Josephus is showing two characters that from Herod, who now chases Jesus into Egypt, right? He is showing that, and then that also appears as the origin of Jesus Christ. But I tell you, do you know who Herod the Great actually?
Hold on. Before you go on, I want you to deal with the question that I asked you, because you're trying to use Josephus as a source on Jesus, meaning Josephus was not an eyewitness to who Christ was. He is a Jew who denied him. Matter of fact, Josephus is as a Jew is no different than the Talmudic writers who also wrote about Christ and said that his mother was a whore and had sex. I forgot who they had. They said that she had sex with. So you're going to a non-primary source. You're going to somebody who came almost 100 years after Christ, and you're trying to use him as somebody who even knows Christ. He doesn't even and the thing is he doesn't even mention anything about the writers of Luke, John, or any of these, and yet he's supposed to be a quality source.
Yes, only in the fact that he's contemporary at the time period, and that he is one of the people outside of the Bible that actually confirms that Jesus Christ at that time period, right? As a scholar, it doesn't matter if he's a, a Hebrew at that time. If you want to call him a Jew, fine. The fact of the matter is, I'm getting to something. So my point of it is, we know Herod the Great existed. We know Herod the Great's mother, wife was Mary me. We know Herod the Great's father was Joseph. We know that. We also know that Herod the Great chased the family of Jesus into Egypt. We know this, but the reality is that Herod the Great did not chase Jesus into Egypt. Herod the Great chased another Messiah into Egypt, and that Messiah was the son of Cleopatra the seventh and the son of Julius Caesar, who would have been a Messiah figure because he was born of two great kings and queens of that period who were godlike. So, yes.
So let me understand this. Quick question. So let me understand this. You're making a claim that Cleopatra named her child Yeshua, which is a Hebraic name, saying that Yahweh saves. And yet Cleopatra now is taking Jewish names upon her child. Does it make sense?
No, I'm not saying that.
Hold on.
I'm saying that the
You said she had
original
a child
story,
named Jesus.
I'm saying that the original story, the fabricated story, was of other people, and then it was created to be a Jesus story. And that the story, the story of Jesus in Egypt, right? There is no sources to say that outside of the Bible. But when we look at the scholarly sources, we find that the Caesarion, who was the child of both Caesar and of Cleopatra the Seventh, who would have been a god king, right, was hunted by Herod the Great, and that we have this real story in contemporary times, and we know from lots of history and dealing with mythology and religions that they borrow from other stories.
So
I can continue. So I'm not saying no, his name is not Yeshua. I'm saying that the real dramatic story of that time was Herod the Great trying to kill Cleopatra and her child because Caesarion would have had rights to Jerusalem. Now, at this time period, yes.
Before you go there, because I'm having trouble buying this so-called story that has no historical evidence of this story ever happening, that we can say is a reliable source that was transmitted to us outside of this one Josephus who you're trying to use, who was not a contemporary of Christ, didn't live in the time of Christ, was a Jew who denied Christ, and yet we're trying to use him as a primary source, but while throwing out what the Bible says, while also throwing out the Talmud that confirms that they crucified this one who called himself the King of the Jews and called him Jesus and knew his name is Jesus, and that's why they refused to say his full name. And then you even have Tacitus, who was a Roman writer, another independent source talking about it, who says that Jesus was crucified under Pontius Pilate, who mentions all the scenarios that the Bible says, all the key figures are there. So we have three sources, and understand, Christians have never used Josephus as a source to prove what Christ did. Christians, we only use Josephus as a source as somebody who did mention there was this one who called him the King of the Jews who existed at this time. But we don't use him as a historical source to say, look, this is what Jesus did. Because if we did, we would look just like the Muslims look, trying to rely upon Sahih Bukhari to teach us about their prophet who came 200 years before him. So if we wouldn't accept that from the Muslims, why would we then accept Josephus as a source to tell us what Jesus did? On top of the fact, you said there's no sources within Egypt talking about Jesus being there. We know that because Jesus was not going into Egypt to be a pharaonic king. He wasn't going in there to be anything special. It was a place that he went and hid himself until he came back to Jerusalem to come and teach his people. So, and when we know that he didn't stay out in Egypt long because he was back in Jerusalem teaching in the temple as a young boy. So this is what I'm trying to understand. Why are you
So since we're talking about Tacitus, and I'll stop, I don't want to take over. I just want to say that you have to be very, very careful about criticizing other people's texts, because yet, I mean, you pointed to primaries, you just haven't shown anything. But and what you're saying about what I'm saying about Josephus and Herod the Great and Joseph and Miriam, two important figures of that time period, that were, how can I say, were true facts. But let's get to Tacitus. Okay, so when did Jesus Christ die, by the way?
He died under Pontius Pilate. Tacitus talks about this, that there's the Christians, and he we have to remember Tacitus hated Christians.
Okay, so under Pontius Pilate, when did he die?
Around 30 to 33 AD.
Good. When is Tacitus writings written? It was a primary source or a secondary source? When was it written?
Tacitus, I think, was written within, I would say, 50 to about 70 years of Christ.
116
if I'm correct.
Years, 116 years, 116 AD.
Okay, so if that's the case, what's the difference between him and Josephus? When we know Tacitus, who was a Roman historian, mentions that there was this one who was called Jesus who existed. Josephus talks about this one who was called Jesus, who the Christians talked about. You also have the Christian sources, and you have the Talmud. So we have four independent sources saying that there is a group of people that's all detested because the Christians were hated. Josephus hated the Christians, so did Tacitus. They had nothing to gain talking about Christ, and yet they tell about the weird suspicions that the Christians had, these weird superstitions that Jesus rose from the dead, and how Tacitus loved to use Christians as basically the Roman candles to light their walkways at night. So Tacitus had nothing to gain by saying that Jesus existed, or even that Jesus was crucified under Pontius. But what I'm trying to establish is not only do we have the biblical and the church fathers saying this, but we actually have three other sources outside of our sources that mentions that Jesus existed. But unlike the other religions, whether it's Islam or even Kemet, we don't hear about this. So as you said, if we're going to hold people to a standard, let's be consistent. We should, if that's the case, be able to find independent sources talking about the Egyptian gods, or we should find independent sources talking about Muhammad if we're going to look at historical figures. Since you're saying that I'm critiquing,
and that's all I'm adding to the discussion. So to say that Islam had some contradictions, right? And that may be true. The believers may say no. The scholars may say yes. On your side, what I'm just trying to say on your side, because you're coming from a religious point of view, not necessarily from a scholarly point of view, because you don't want to see the other external sources that I'm bringing in to add some context to the time period of what is going on at this particular point. There are a lot of things going on in this period in Rome, and during the time of Pontius Pilate, during the time of Nero, right? The Christ story is but one of many stories that's going on, and there are other scholars contemporarily that's writing about it. So let's talk about all of this stuff. I just have a problem when a religious person condemns another religious person, right? When they haven't brought forth any sources. The people that you talk about, yes, some of them may exist. It's very interesting. Most of the Bible patriarchs, they happen to be Greek born anyway. They're Hebrew according to the Bible, but they're also Greeks. There are other groups of people, and these people sit on other bits of information. So I'm just listen. I'm not. All I'm just doing is making a criticism. You pulled up a writing from the Muslims to make your point. I'm asking you to pull up a writing on your side, just as a scholar, just so that I could just be clear that there was not multiple stories, and I brought in a very important story. That's all. That's all.
If I could respond to you, brother, you said that we have to approach it scholarly, not religiously. And what I was trying to show you is that is there any way you can mute your mic, brother? I think I'm hearing feedback. as far as what I've been trying to present to you is that I am approaching it scholarly, and it seems, if anything, that you're the one who's approaching it religiously. And let me explain why. What I have presented to you is that I'm not just relying upon Christian sources, but rather I'm showing that there's independent sources that have nothing to gain that verifies that Jesus was a human being who existed, who claimed himself to be the King of the Jews. We also have independent sources that shows that there is a group of following of people who believed that Jesus was crucified, which is confirmed, and that they believe that he raised from the dead. So what I'm showing you is that our faith is not just established in something that's in 2018, but rather this has been from the beginning. The Christians believe that Jesus was a man who existed, who was crucified, and that he was raised from the dead. Now, I wouldn't expect these other sources to get into the dogma of the faith or the deep understanding of the faith, but to have an outsider's view confirming what it was that we believed. What I was simply showing to the Muslims is that within the early church, there wasn't a dispute between the church fathers saying, no, 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 don't follow the apostolic church of Syria, but follow us. But rather, there was a unity because the Christians had to unify because they were being persecuted all over the world. So the Christians were always moving cautiously with one another. But I'm trying to establish to the Muslims, not only do they not have independent sources confirming what Muhammad did, but I'm showing that even within their own sources, that there is no consensus on what Muhammad did. And what I'm trying to show them is that even from the beginning to the middle, all the way up to today, there is no consensus on anything within their faith. So the difference is I'm not trying to be religious. I'm trying to be as scholarly as I can. But for those who are refusing to accept what their own scripts or their own writings say, they're not being scholarly. They're rather being religious. They're trying to hold on to something that they want to be true instead of letting the evidence speak to them. So I'm trying to show that the evidence speaks for Christianity, but it doesn't speak for Islam. I'm not trying to critique it and make a comparison. I'm just trying to show the Muslims that if they want to say that, look, this is what the earliest is Muslims followed, I can show them within their own sources that's not true because their own sources says no. Many Muslims believed many things to the point where they went to war with one another. So that's all I'm trying to point to them. I'm not trying to show that I didn't even try to get into the superiority game or any of that. I'm just trying to say that if we're going to be consistent in trying to examine what the Islamic faith is about, we have to let the sources speak for themselves, not try to put our own interpolation upon it. That's it.
Okay, I'm not being religious. I just simply asked, do you, if you don't have any sources at hand right now, maybe at another point. I'm not your enemy. I'm
No,
not
it's
your
all
enemy.
love. It's all love, brother. It's all love.
I'm asking you. I'm asking you for your sources because from what most of us know, coming into being, there were many stories of Christ. The word Christ is actually not even a word that is in Aramaic or it is in Hebrew. It
It's
is a
Greek.
word. Well, no, it's actually comes from Kemet. It means caress, and it means the risen one or the one going into the afterlife. It's caress, and that
The
Can I
anointed one, I think,
can
as
I
well.
challenge that? Yeah, because within our faith, it's never meant Christ is just the Greek version, or forgive me, it's the Greek of the Messiah or the Moshiach. The Moshiach is talking about one who is anointed. It has nothing to do with Kemet. We know that Yeshua means Yah saves. That's his name. Christ or Messiah is just a title. It has nothing to do with the actual name. So when we say Jesus Christ, it's no different than saying Jesus the Messiah. So to make that jump that somehow it goes back to Kemet, brother, where's the evidence for that?
There's so many cultures around the world that link Christianity together. For example, the story where Jesus Christ lived, born from a virgin, born on the 25th of December. The fact that Jesus was that he had 12 followers has always been repeated throughout history, and then he so not born during December, but he died during December, and then he came back up during on Christmas Day. All these stories have been repeated various times with Dionysus, with um, India, Horus, just so many stories. The story of Jesus has been repeated over and over again. So we need to take a step back and try to understand what is this coming from. This is coming from an understanding that this is not a literal thing, but rather it is an allegory of collections that we can take from and try to understand from it. If
I
you get what
think
I'm saying.
Can I ask a question to her still? Like,
Calm, yeah.
you tried to, like, it seemed like you're trying to, like, add Jesus to all these old mythologies that come from Kemet, yeah? But you mentioned the 25th of December and all these things. I'd like to know where in the Bible does it mention those things that you've just mentioned?
No, okay. I'm not talking about the sort of the gods or the mythology from Kemet. I'm talking about across the world. India, Africa, Europe have repeated the same story of Jesus Christ that is portrayed within the Bible. Is what I'm trying to say.
But I want to know, like, what about the story in the Bible, yeah, pertains to these other nations? What about Jesus? Like, give us some
No, the
examples.
story. Okay, for example, I'm saying the story
Where's
of
Richard?
Jesus Christ. It's just changed its name. The name's
But,
only different. Everything
but
else is
what
just the
about the
same.
story? I'm saying, what about the story? You can't just throw these things out there and not give us no examples. Like,
Okay, for example, they say that Jesus Christ was born from a virgin, yeah?
but the Bible doesn't say that. It says a marriageable woman. So that's out the window.
You're telling me that within the Christian doctrine, it does not say that
He's
I'm
not
saying,
Christian.
Mary was a virgin. It
I'm
doesn't say
not.
that Mary was a
He's
virgin.
the Israelite.
I'm saying the Bible does not say that Mary, yeah, was a virgin woman who's never had sex. It doesn't say that. Virgin has two meanings. It can mean someone who hasn't had sex, or it can just mean a young woman of marriageable age.
that doesn't make
That
sense,
makes
brother.
no
That
sense
makes
at
no
all.
sense at all.
In English, go to the definition of virgin in English, and you get the same two definitions. So
We're
how
not
don't it make
talking
sense?
about
How
English.
though?
We're talking
Yeah,
about what the Hebraic understanding is.
yeah.
No man had known, it says, no man had ever known Mary, meaning that we know what the Bible means by know. When somebody knows a woman, that means that you went inside, you went into
Yeah,
her
at the
and
time,
therefore make a child.
at the time of the visit, yeah, but that doesn't mean that it happened instantly. It means that
What does that mean?
nobody knew her at that time. But obviously,
But I'm
it
not
says that
talking about.
she's gonna
I'm not
receive
exactly.
seed. No, but wait there. I'm just responding to the
Okay,
brother.
go
It
on,
says
go
that
on.
she's gonna receive seed.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
from
talking
And
about. I'm not talking about specifically. Okay, that's getting into the technical stuff. But I'm saying the story of Jesus Christ has been repeated over and over again across the world,
no,
and
I'm
I'm saying
saying
that
the
Jesus
sto-
Christ was born from a virgin. Do you want
no.
me to finish off the first bit that you wanted me to tell you, or do you want to move on or something?
Can
So
I ask you a
can I
question?
can I just interject on?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I? So basically, Mo said a lot of comments about that the early Muslims were united. I would totally disagree. While the Prophet was under the reign of Prophet Muhammad, all Muslims were united. You could say after the Prophet's death that Muslims became differentiated between the caliphs of Abu Bakr, Umar, and so let's try compare this with the earliest church fathers. The earliest church fathers were differentiated between the fact that some of them were Unitarians, some of them actually believed what's that theory called, that the Father was at the top, then there was the Son, then it was the Holy Spirit. They didn't actually believe in the Trinity that you hold today. You cannot find me any of the early church fathers between the first 200 years. The first 200 years, you cannot find any church
So
father that
He's
I'm
agrees.
never
not talking
agreed.
about that.
Agreed.
I'm talking about
I don't,
the story of Jesus Christ has been
I'm
repeated.
not speaking
Yeah,
about what.
but listen.
No,
That's what
but
I'm
that's
so
the
saying. She keeps on saying that the story of Jesus Christ is repeated.
That's a
But
made up
yeah,
story, man.
the
no.
story of
It's been
Jesus. Listen. The
go on.
story of Jesus Christ mentions that he's going to be the descendant of Abraham. Did you know that?
No, I'm not talking
Huh?
about that. I'm talking
So what are you
about
on
this.
about? You're talking about the story that Christians have
All
made
right,
up.
if you let me
Not
finish,
listen,
can I
listen.
finish?
I'm just saying, yeah. You're
Yeah,
talking
Ezra, I
about the
like that.
story. listen. You're talking about the story
hold
that
on.
Christians have made up,
Hold
not
on.
the
I just
biblical
jump in.
story.
No, 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 no. I'm talking about something.
I need to jump in real quickly. Family, yeah, I need you to let me know whether I should do this or not do this, okay? But currently, you know, they got me involved with a conversation with Christian Prince. So I want to know, can I have the possibility and permission to shut down this show and set up a new show and jump on the Christian Prince's channel and we can have the discussion, okay? I need my laptop, okay, to actually share information with Christian Prince. So I have to close down this show. If you don't want
All
me
right,
to do
brother.
it, if you guys don't want me to do it, I'll leave this show up and running for you guys. If you do want me to do it, I'm gonna have to close this show down.
Nah,
What
I
you guys
definitely want to see that. We got to see that, man. We got to
Yeah,
see
I
that.
want to see them, man.
Are you gonna
Can you
give us
post
the
the
link
link
or
for
something?
us?
Yeah, the link.
Yeah. So actually, do we have any Arabic speaking people here?
I speak a little bit.
M Stacks. M Stacks. You saying, G? You saying? Or Abdi Khalid? I don't know. Who wants to do it? Or Jesna? Which one? Who's got the better?
Arabic is not that good.
My Arabic is like mediocre.
Who's got the better Arabic?
I don't know, man. Let's all go on it. Two of us. Let's two of us go.
It's not.
The Khalid, do you want to go?
Who wants to? Choose one. Nominate yourselves.
Stacks, you go. Mine's not that good, to be honest.
All right.
Listen.
M
Nah.
Stacks.
Yo.
I will message you the link to a Hangouts, okay? Where me and you can be on there. And you're going to be the champion, right? You're going to be one of the only Muslims who's gone up against Christian Prince and be able to be along my side, yeah, to present a good argument. All right?
Yeah,
so I'm going to help out my Muslim brethren today. All right. It's not to say I'm against Christian Prince, because I think Christian Prince is doing awesome works, right? He has to be one of the best, if not the best, on YouTube talking about Islam. I think my two
He knows
favorite,
Arabic, innit?
yeah, my two favorite has to be Mufti Abu Layth and Christian Prince. They're both as good as each other. Okay. One, of course, is pro-Islam, which is Mufti Abu Layth. One is against Islam, which is Christian Prince. And I respect.
Mohammed Hijab's debate is coming on, isn't it?
It's coming on later on. Roughly around 11 o'clock, I've been told.
Okay.
We've got a couple of hours, so I'm only going to be on there for about an hour tops. So,
Guys, can I ask you,
Yeah.
what's that? The name of the video of Muhammad Hijab? Is it a live video or something?
It might be on David Wood's one channel.
If you go on to Axe Apologetics, Axe Apologetics, and it's got some numbers.
Act 17.
Act 17.
Act 17. Calm. Thanks.
All right. So you lot can stay here though. Stay here and carry on the conversation, but we're just going off air. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Definitely. I want to check out that convo though. But post that up, brother.
Cool. No problem.
And brother Reggie, I'm definitely gonna try to link up with you, brother. I'll try to get some sources direct, because I mean, there's